From the high desert and the great American Southwest, I bid you all good morning, good evening. Out across all these many time zones, some of which are beginning to experience Halloween now, some will soon, and some not for a while, stretching from the Hawaiian Islands and Tahiti in the west, all the way to the U.S. Caribbean Virgin Islands in the east, south into South America, north all the way to the pole. This is Ghost to Ghost AM. Good morning, everybody. It's good to be with you. I have a number of announcements and a little bit of the standard news for you that we must cover. Quickening items, big time. They'll kind of mesh into Ghost to Ghost throughout the night. Now, we have to welcome a whole bunch of new stations, and so let me get that out of the way right now. What a pleasure it is to welcome the big monster WJR in Detroit. What an auspicious evening for you to begin. Morning there now. 760 on the dial, 50,000 big watts blazing through the nighttime mid-America. And so we're glad to have you on board. Good to be on WJR. WHAM, 50,000 gigantic non-directional Halloween watts from Rochester, New York. Good to have you on board. Big, big affiliates. Also WFMD in Frederick, Maryland, 930 on the AM dial. Welcome to the program, serving into portions of Baltimore and Washington, D.C. and so forth. And WTAD AM in Quincy, Illinois. Welcome, WTAD. Good to have you along. Now, what to begin with? Well, first of all, the secular news of the day. Quebec is not going to do it. The final vote was awfully close. It was a Canadian hair. The yeses take it, did not take it, and missed it by about 7/10, I guess you'd say, of 8%. The yes votes were 49.4, the no votes 50.6, so Quebec, Canada will stay together, and I must say that I'm happy for them. Those that are happy, I'm happy for you. Splitting up any country is not too cool an idea. A person that I have had, and for all the new listeners out there, it's just impossible to explain my program. We do all kinds of unusual things all the time. And I never know from night to night what we're going to do. I will tell you this. We don't screen calls. I have no call screener. Don't want one. Don't have any need for one. I've been doing the program this way for about 11 years. By the way, the affiliate count now is 230 affiliates nationwide. So I never know what's going to happen. I do the program actually 5 hours per night. And if I had to come down here and do a Rush Limbaugh, and I like Rush, but I don't do what he does. If I had to do that, I would absolutely go crackers. God, I can't believe it. My wife has candles all over my room. I am appropriately decorated for Halloween, and I don't know where she found it, but she found, it does have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fingers. She brought me this candle that is burning in here, and it is a hand. 5 fingers. A hand and 5 fingers. And as the candle burns, blood runs, or red wax, I guess, but what sure does look like blood, runs down individually from each finger, staining the hand with blood as it drips. God, what a weird candle. And from here in rural Nevada as well, I don't know where you would find such a thing. But it is here. and the room is scattered with burning candles. My picture of Shannon Dougherty has been desecrated. It says, "I want your soul," with an S and a circle around it. Then there's a pumpkin sitting here. So I'm appropriately outfitted for Halloween. Something a little sobering for you before we begin Ghost to Ghost. People are saying, what's Ghost to Ghost? You're about to find out. We have had a man, a good friend of mine, is a man named Gordon Michael Scallion. He is, in my opinion, if there is such a real thing as a prophet or a visionary, Gordon Michael Scallion is the modern-day Edgar Cayce, no question about it. Aside from a fax, which I got from him recently, saying, "Art, look, no change. I'd come on the program, but no change in my predictions." Many of you may recall his last words to us were, "Whatever you do, watch Vesuvius and Etna." I wonder if any of you recall that. Watch Vesuvius and Etna. Gordon Michael Scallion is predicting Earth changes that would make what we're going to do this morning seem like kid stuff. Well, my jaw hit my chest when I watched CBS Sunday Night News. Mount Vesuvius in Italy. There has been not much since 1944, where 50 died in a very minor explosion. Before that, 79 AD in Pompeii, 25,000 people dead. CBS said Vesuvius may be about to go up again. Experts are saying a series of quakes may be signaling a new major eruption. There is a voluntary evacuation called for, but where 25,000 in Pompeii lived within striking distance of Pompeii, there are now 500,000, and they're not going to leave. Scallion said, "Watch Vesuvius and Etna," and I just sat there. I couldn't believe it. I actually woke my wife up. I said, "You've got to see this report." Richard in East Central California simply sent a fax saying Vesuvius is going to blow. They're encouraging voluntary evacuation. I'm moving inland. Could I interest you in some California land? No. Small earthquake in Alaska over the weekend. 4.8, something like that. Nothing too serious. They have turned on Beta, the billion-channel extraterrestrial array. It is to look for aliens, to look for others anywhere out there, a major effort to find out if anybody is out there. Outside Boston, there is an 84-foot radio telescope. It is big. It's got new electronics. It is the private sector version, if you will, of SETI. SETI, as you know, has been defunded, but this one just turned on. There are, it is estimated, 100 million planets in our galaxy that may in all probability contain intelligent life. I said 100 million that may contain intelligent life. Scientists say it is not a matter of if we find them, but when. And so they are hoping that we will get a signal, and they are confident that we will. Also, over the weekend, Wright-Patterson, as you know, Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, is a very, very unlikely place for Middle East peace talks. Very unlikely. And yet, they are going to be held there, according to CBS News Sunday, in the strictest security. And then, of course, if all goes well or badly, depending on your point of view, we get to send 20 or 25,000 men into an area where there are at least 100,000 land mines waiting to take their limbs. One more item. I call it, you will hear the phrase used on this program. I call it the quickening. I've been doing talk radio now for, this show actually, for 11 years, talk radio longer than that. And whether you're talking about social, economic, political matters, it doesn't matter. In every area of life all around the world, things are beginning to occur at a faster pace. Now, I am not a Bible thumper, nor do I say we are headed toward some religious manifestation or change. I don't say that. I'm just telling you, as a talk host, I'm watching very carefully, and to me it is more than obvious that we are headed towards something big. Some big change, some big something. I don't know. I'm just a talk host. I'm telling you, I call it the quickening. And to add to it, there is a mystery epidemic sweeping northwestern Nicaragua. It has now infected thousands of people, killing 12 so far. Doctors unable to stop it. Clinics in a town of 13,000 say they have been deluged by patients from rural areas complaining of bleeding of the nose, gums, headaches, body aches, severe fatigue. In dramatic form, patients have come in and collapsed in the unit. One doctor told Reuters, all we can do is halfway stabilize them and send them off to Lyon. They only go to die there. So we have got another one, ladies and gentlemen, a new mysterious disease of some kind. We don't know what it is, but we do know that it is. All right, in a moment, we are going to start down a very different path. Interesting as all of that news may be, there will be lots of airtime in the next several days to talk about it. Because this morning, we are going to, I don't know if the word is celebrate, but we are going to, what is the word? We are going to make significant note of Halloween. And we are going to do it in a serious way. And before I even begin, I want to lay down a few ground rules. Number one, no jokes. I'm only interested in serious, and I mean serious and true, ghost stories. There are plenty of them. Is there life after death? It is probably one of the biggest questions troubling mankind, has been since probably we've been walking around thinking about stuff like this. Well, one sure way, one possible way, I guess I ought to say, to determine if there is life, a spirit that exists beyond the one we have with the physical body, that increasingly burdens us as we travel down life's long-toothed highway. If there is some spirit that lives beyond the body, one way and one area of exploration is obviously the spirit world. It's been quite some time now, but on this very day, across much of America, back, I believe, in 1926, Harry Houdini died. Why do you suppose he died on Halloween? Just coincidence? Perhaps. At any rate, back to my ground rules. I want only serious stories, ghost stories of one sort or another. And that's what we're going to do all night long. Now, the audience had a big talk about it last week. Now, obviously, when I come on the air tomorrow night in this time zone, it still will be Halloween. So we will do tonight in totality. Tomorrow night will be partial, depending on how it goes. But on this program, we celebrate. We note profoundly this day. Celebrate is the wrong word. So, in a moment, a couple of stories to prep you for what's coming. All right, here is a true but bizarre story. Now, this is still not yet quite Halloween fodder, but I wanted you to hear it. On March 23rd, 1994, the medical examiner viewed the body of Ronald Opus and concluded that he died from a shotgun wound of the head. Not unusual yet in our society. The descendant had jumped from the top of a 10-story building intending to commit suicide. He left a note to that effect indicating his despondency. As he fell past the 9th floor, his life was interrupted by a shotgun blast through a window which killed him instantly. Bear in mind, the fellow had jumped out of a very high floor, but as he came by floor number 9, his head literally was blown off by a shotgun. Neither the shooter nor the decedent was aware that a safety net had been erected at the 8th floor level to protect some window washers, and that Opus would not have been able to complete his suicide anyway because of that. Strange. Ordinarily, Dr. Mills continued, quote, a person who sets out to commit suicide ultimately succeeds, even through the mechanism, even though it might not be what he really intended. That Opus was shot on the way to certain death 9 stories below probably would not have changed his mode of death from suicide to homicide, but the fact that his suicidal intent would not have been successful caused the medical examiner to feel that he had homicide on his hands. The room on the 9th floor where the shotgun blast emanated was occupied by an elderly man and his wife. Get this, they were arguing, and he was threatening her with the shotgun. He was so upset that when he pulled the trigger, he completely missed his wife, and the pellets went through the window, hitting Opus, who was on the way to what he thought was his death anyway. When one intends to kill subject A but kills subject B in the attempt, one is guilty of the murder of subject B. When confronted with this charge, the old man and his wife were both adamant that neither one of them knew the shotgun was loaded. The old man said it had been his long-standing habit to threaten his wife with an unloaded shotgun. He had no intention to murder her. Therefore, the killing of Opus appears to be an accident. That is to say, the gun had been accidentally loaded. The continuing investigation, get this, turned up a witness who saw the old couple's son loading the shotgun about 6 weeks prior to the fatal incident. It transpired that the old lady had cut off her son's financial support, and the son, knowing the propensity of his father to use the shotgun in a threatening way, loaded the gun with the expectation that his father would shoot his mother. The case now becomes one of murder on the part of the son for the death of Ronald Opus. Can you believe it? There was an exquisite twist. Further investigation revealed that the son, Ronald Opus, had become increasingly despondent over the failure of his attempt to engineer his own mother's murder. This is what led him to jump off the 10-story building on March 23rd, only to be killed by a shotgun blast through a 9th-story window. The medical examiner closed the case as that of a suicide. So, there you got it. The weirdest but true story I could possibly have found for you to kick off Halloween 1995. That one is weird, but it is true. And maybe it's true that there is sometimes a very immediate kind of justice for those who would do evil. All right, prepare yourselves. It's coming. Ghost to Ghost AM is next.
giving me wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, well, I don't wanna jinx it, baby, and twist myself at the spine. Don't wanna overthink it, baby. It's just twist your body and mine. Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're giving me wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, but I don't wanna jinx it, baby. Let's not get ahead of my time. Oh, but I don't wanna miss you, baby. So I stand up and speak my mind. Oh. Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're chilling wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're channeling wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, 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 oh,
Considered group hypnosis. We had been looking for a Sasquatch, needless to say. We were all terribly unnerved and immediately canceled the special, telling our audience there had been technical difficulties. That is from Steve Fisher in Bellevue, Washington. And it is but one of several broadcast-related stories of this sort that I have for you this morning. I'm telling you right now, there are things that we do not understand, and there are many people out there that put them off as this or that. I am not one of those people. To sort of set the mood for you, I am not going to be fooling around with weird little sound effects and that sort of thing through the night, because I think that takes away from the reality of what we're going to do. You know, I'm not going to make a joke out of it, but I do have a couple of sound effects collected over the last couple of weeks that I may use. The first I'm going to let you hear is, remember, there's a lot of new listeners out there. I do a show on Sunday called Dreamland that deals with this kind of material all the time. Linda Howe widely reputed to be the world's, I say expert, she doesn't like that term, investigator. She is a journalist who looks into crop circles, animal mutilations, and Sasquatch of late, sent to me a tape of a sound of what is said to be Bigfoot. And try and imagine yourself out in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere. Brace yourself. If you've got a cat on your lap, get it off now. I'm telling you. This is the sound sent to me by Linda Howe. The sound of Sasquatch. Now, how'd you like to hear that sound out in the middle of the night somewhere, So if I use any sound effects, it'll be this and one other. And that's it. And that's because they are said to be the real thing, which is what I want from you this morning. The real thing. If you've got a ghost story and you can tell it well, then I encourage you to pick up the telephone, and I guess I better cover the phone business right now, and then we'll go to the lines. All right? Here it is. If you have never called this program before, feel free to call our first-time caller line. It is area code 702-727-1222. 702-727-1222. Or you may wish instead to try what we call the wild card lines, area code 702-727-1295. 702-727-1295. Toll free from west of the Rockies, anywhere west of the Rockies, it's 1-800-618-8255. 1-800-618-8255. East of the Rockies, anywhere east of the Rockies, toll free, it's 1-800-825-5033. 1-800-825-5033. Now, here's the trick. Let them ring until they're answered. If you have not been picked up, they'll cut you off. The phone company does that. We don't. Pick it up, redial, try again. Persistence is power, and eventually you will get through. So let us begin. The night is yours. Ghost to Ghost AM is on the air. And you will be the first caller. First-time callers, area 702-727-1222. We don't take last names on the air.
Okay.
So we didn't get started very well there because I had to bleep that out, so let us begin all over again. Just give us your first name only.
Okay, this is Jeff.
And where are you, Jeff?
I'm in Santa Maria.
Santa Maria, California.
Hello, I'm glad to start off as your first caller. I'm pretty lucky. Probably the best guy to start off. I work at a radio station.
Oh.
And it broadcasts your show.
You mean you work at one of my affiliates?
Yeah, over at KSMA.
In Santa Maria?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you presently on duty?
No, I'm in my room.
I see. All right.
My dad and my sister are listening. They both work there, too. And, we have a ghost in our studios over at the...
Over at KSMA?
Yeah. The way it goes is a guy that used to work there.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm very nervous.
Just relax. No, I've never heard this, and since you're one of my affiliates, gee, I'm surprised. Maybe had you thought maybe they don't want this out?
No, I asked my dad really, and at first, my sister said that maybe he wouldn't let us to know about this stuff, but he said it was okay.
All right.
And anyway, this guy, he was working on the inside, and he was doing a game, baseball game or something.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister, she works over on the AM, and she does games every once in a while, but I usually work on the FM side.
Right.
And she has had occurrences happening there. I don't know how long ago it was, maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
This guy was working a game, and the guy on the FM side comes out, and he sees this guy lying on the floor. And
Right.
he called up my dad and said,
Is your dad the manager or program director or something?
he's operations manager.
I see.
And he called him and he said, Jeff, his name, I think you better get over here. This guy is on the floor and I think he's dead.
Bad
And
news,
so,
yeah. I wouldn't like that myself.
My dad got over there, and by the time he was over there, paramedics were there working on him and everything. And so he eventually died, and they said it was of a heart attack.
Yes.
And this is in the middle of the game.
Yes.
And so the guy that found him, one night, he goes through the hall. There's a long hall that stretches about 50 feet. He checks it for boxes and stuff, anything that might be in the way that you might trip on.
Well, sure.
And he turns out the lights, and he's going down there later, and he stumbles and falls. And he turns on the lights, there's nothing there. And it was right next to the AM room, I suppose. And anyway, later on...
Let me guess. He stumbled over the body.
I don't know, but it was supposedly where he had found him.
Where the body had been found.
Nothing was there when he turned on the lights.
Well, Jeff, thank you for the story. That's not unusual, and it's a great way to set everything up. I am glad that you were here first. You see, this is the essence, I believe, and I've interviewed many, 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 many people on Dreamland, this program, and others, experts in this area. And don't ask me, because, again, I'm just a talk host. But when people die suddenly, painfully, sometimes murdered, sometimes with drastically unfinished business, unrequited love, whatever it might be, for some reason the spirit seems to linger. And that's 2 radio station stories in a row. I don't know if I like that. But it's the truth. Now, at one point during Jeff's call, you could hear a little sound, a little hum. That's because I didn't even need to ask him. He was obviously on a portable telephone. All right. East of the Rockies, you are on the air. Good morning.
Hi, how are you, Art?
Fine.
Can I go ahead and, tell you,
Well, of course. Where are you?
I'm actually in Reno, listening on KOH.
Well, actually, then you're on the wrong line.
Oh, am I?
This is east of the Rockies.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The number you want to call is 1-800-618-8255.
Hold on, I don't even have a pen.
Well, that's the number.
Right.
So thank you very much for the call, and I'll repeat it again. 1-800-618-8255, west of the Rockies. East of the Rockies, it's 1-800-825-5033. Again, east, you're on the air. Hi.
Yes, sir. This is Tony from Pueblo. Listen to you on KCSJ.
Pueblo, Colorado. Fine. Welcome to the program.
Story I have, it actually happened the summer of 1986, right before I went into the service.
Yes, sir.
I'm originally from North Carolina, and
I can hear it in your voice.
Yeah, just a little bit of an accent.
Yeah.
The part of the country I'm from is known very well for its ghost stories and UFO sightings and things of that nature.
Uh-huh.
On this particular night, me and a couple of my high school buddies decided we were going to go to this place that was reputed to be a haunted house. We went up there and went inside and was messing around, just goofing off, doing typical high school guy things.
You need not describe them, I recall.
So we went ahead, got pretty bored with that, didn't see anything interesting, so we decided to leave. Well, the house was located out in the country, I guess about 6 or 7 miles from the town I lived in.
Mm-hmm.
And we started back into town, and there's a long stretch of road called Piper's Gap Road in that area.
Okay.
We started down the road, and it just got foggy. It's just like it just sat down, and it's real humid back there, so I figured it was just one of them typical things, it got a little bit cooler, clouds came down.
And it just lays down, yeah.
And it just laid down on the road.
Sure.
Well, while we're going down through there, got to going and talking about people that pick up hitchhikers, and the next thing you know, they'll turn over, be talking to them, turn around, and they won't be there in the car.
Many stories like that.
So we're going down the road, and we come up to, I wouldn't say a fork in the road, I'd say an intersection where another road connected with the road we were on.
Yes.
As we approach it, we can just make out a person standing right on the side of the road, right at where the road connects.
A hitchhiker.
And he's got his thumb out.
Naturally.
Well, we're talking to each other, and I said, why don't we just stop and pick the guy up? And they're like, no, man, don't do it, because we've just been talking about picking up hitchhikers.
That's right.
So I said, no, we're going to go ahead and do it. And I was driving. So I pull the car over. The guy sitting beside me in the passenger seat rolls down the window, leans out and asks the guy if he needs a ride. Well, he just automatically turned back to me, and his face was just ashen. It just went pale. And I leaned down and looked out the passenger window, and he had already asked him if he had wanted a ride. I looked at the guy. The guy was as white as a sheet, and he was still looking down the road in the direction that we had came from.
Huh.
And he didn't move, didn't make any any sign that he even knew we were there. And the next thing I done was hit the gas and got out of there as fast as I could. And that was, 9 years ago, and it's still, to this day, I think about it, and it kind of gives me the shivers.
And what is it that you think you saw? What was he?
I don't know, because I'd never seen him before, and I come from a pretty small town, and it was I guess it was a ghost. That's the only thing I can attribute it to. Was it was a ghost. It was an apparition.
An apparition. I appreciate the call, sir.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. There you are. An apparition. Many stories presently circulating on the west coast of the country about hitchhikers getting into cars, talking about Gabriel's horns about to blow. Kind of like Vesuvius, huh? Or maybe in concert with. And then suddenly disappearing. Many, many such stories. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm all right. Where are you?
I'm in Detroit.
Detroit. Our first Detroit caller.
Yeah, I'd like to welcome you to Detroit.
Well, I thank you very much. We're very happy to be there.
Oh,
You will find this to be a pretty weird show.
well,
But it's an acquired taste. Given a little time, you'll learn to like it.
well, you've been recommended, and the only thing I've heard about you is that you're very cerebral.
Well, I'll take judgment on that after you've listened for about a week.
Okay. Is it 2 o'clock Eastern time? No, I don't know if you're on pace away.
Well, no, it's coming up on midnight, the actual beginning of Halloween where I am, so I'm on Pacific time. And I believe in Detroit, even though it doesn't seem like you guys ought to be, you're on Eastern time, right?
Oh, you got it.
So it's coming up on 3 o'clock in the morning there.
Yep.
Yikes.
Well, I've been known to stay up and talk with our late night hosts, and they've just been the 38 states, the great voices of the Great Lakes. But
That's what I've heard. The WJR covers 38 states. That's remarkable.
isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely remarkable. And if I think about it, it's a funny thing, sir. I've been on network now doing network shows for several years, and yet every time a new station, a big one, joins, I still get nervous, like right now. Listen, I'm coming up on a break, and so what I would like to do, it's our nickel. We will hold you over and bring you back after the news, all right?
Sounds good.
Now, you're not going to hear anything. Don't let it bother you. We'll be right back. This is CBC.
Art Bell, toll-free. West of the Rockies at 1-800-618-8255. 1-800-618-8255. East of the Rockies at 1-800-825-5033. 1-800-825-5033. This is the CBC Radio Network.
Welcome to Ghost AM. Thought I'd add a little spirit to the night. Good to be with you, everybody. I'm Art Bell, and we'll be here all night long. Nothing but ghost stories. The ground rules are simple. You tell the story. We'll listen. But it's got to be a real one. Heaven knows. Is it heaven? There are plenty of them out there. And going back now to a caller, my first caller, I might add, on WJR in Detroit. And I just, you said your radio station, sir, covers 38 states. I just got a fax from somebody. Said WJR 760 from Detroit is coming in here, gangbusters, and he sends the fax from Birmingham, Alabama. His name is Ron. So there you are, all the way down in Alabama.
You can get it in Detroit, Alabama.
Listen, Detroit, as we all know, is the center of some pretty strange activity upon Halloween.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of volunteers out in your streets tonight trying to keep things quiet. I assume so far they are quiet.
Well, they haven't been too bad. I just had to go outside my wife said she heard somebody parking out front.
Great.
And it's like we had a car stolen out front 2 days ago, so it's not the best neighborhood, but then again, it's not the worst.
Well, I've got a way to keep people inside. Did you hear last hour the Bigfoot sound I played?
Oh, yeah.
You did, huh?
It
All right.
scared my dog.
Uh-huh. Well, I've got something else I want. If there's anything that'll keep the people in Detroit inside, try and imagine this outside. Listen carefully now. How'd you like to meet something like that out in the middle of the street in the middle of the night?
Well, I think I just heard that a few minutes ago. My wife's 8 3/4 months pregnant.
Oh, well, I hope she stays that way.
Yeah. Matter of fact, we were almost going to have the baby today, being Halloween, but we're going to have it tomorrow.
Well, I hope I didn't bring anything premature, so.
Oh, no.
Anyway, have you ever seen anything you could not explain?
Well, yeah, I had probably about 20 years ago. Me and my brother and sister got together, and we decided we were going to get out the old Ouija board and have a seance.
Yes.
And of course, the first person you call up from the dead is George Washington, and nothing seemed to happen, and all the lights were out in the house. And then my brother decided that he was going to call Satan. And
oh, really poor idea.
Yeah. And next thing you know, we heard a gust of wind, and the front door, we had a vestibule at the front of the house, and just a flimsy door, and that swung shut. So it would have taken an action of somebody pulling it or suction, a really strong breeze or something.
Sure.
To shut the door.
Sure.
And we got startled, and we ran over there and didn't see anything. And we flicked on the light, and the light didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to get a light bulb. We put it in, and we had like a 2x4 carpet in the vestibule, and the impression left on the carpet was the trident, the devil's spear, with, the pitchfork.
Yes. Oh, yes. I know.
And nobody would have had the opportunity to do it, and they would have had to do it in the dark.
I'll tell you something, and I'll tell everybody else a brief story, which I sort of said I was never going to tell again. But that's a good one, sir. Thank you. And we shall always remember you, by the way, as caller number 1 from Detroit. What is your first name again?
My name is KC.
KC from Detroit. Brother, thank you.
Well, it's good listening to you, Art, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot more listeners from Detroit.
All right, thank you. Good to be on the air there. Well, when I worked in Las Vegas, and for a number of years I did the program in Las Vegas, from the Union Plaza Hotel, it was called at that time. And one night when I was doing a show, this very night, as a matter of fact, a lady called up and claimed to be a witch. She gave me some very, very disconcerting information, personal knowledge, which I actually bleeped off the air. It was so personal, I couldn't believe that she could possibly know these things about me. And toward the end of the call, she said she was going to come and leave something for me. Well, she left me a Ouija board, an ancient Ouija board. I have never, nor will I to this day, tell you what has happened to that Ouija board. But when you call upon spirits, when you call upon the dark side, and you do it with something, an instrument, it does not matter, you'd better be damn careful what you're doing. Ouija boards are an opening. They're an opening into a world where there are things that you may not really wish to meet. So my advice to you, without telling you the detailed story of this board, which is frightening, my advice to you is do not play with Ouija boards. It's like opening a door, and you just don't know what's going to walk through. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi.
Art.
Yes.
Hello, how you doing?
Okay, you're going to have to get into that phone and yell at us.
All right, how's this?
Much better.
All right, thanks.
Where are you?
I'm in Spokane.
Spokane, Washington. KGA.
Mighty KGA.
You bet.
I have a story for you.
All right, go ahead.
It's a doozy. About a year ago, I was staying at a friend's house up in Newport.
Mm-hmm.
And we were sitting down in the basement, right?
Yes.
And we were sitting there smoking cigarettes and talking back and forth.
Doing guy stuff.
Yeah. And I was sitting there and I was watching my smoke from my cigarette go up, and all of a sudden I seen a face kind of appear into it, you know, the smoke going up into the air.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked my friend, you know, do you see it? And he's like, yeah. And it smiled kind of, and then...
It smiled?
Yeah, it just smiled. And
now, I could understand people blow smoke rings.
Yeah.
I could even understand blowing a face, but I can't understand it smiling.
Yeah, it just kind of formed into a face. It was the strangest thing I've ever... I still get shivers now.
And it smiled at you?
Yes.
Well, it's better than a frown.
Yeah.
And what happened to it then? Did it...
It just kind of dissipated really slowly.
God, that's weird.
He's told me about stories about seeing things in his house before, too. So.
Well, I'll tell you then a little story. I have a photograph. Thank you very much for the call. I have a photograph of a ghost, a real ghost. It might be a wonderful night for some of you to get this photograph. If you have a computer and a modem, we've got a bulletin board service, and you can go in and get a photograph of this ghost. Actually, there are several ghost photographs. Oh, by the way, my guest this last Sunday on Dreamland sent me a photograph of a tornadic ghost. I don't know if that's a word. But it is obviously some sort of plasma material at the top of a staircase in the shape of a tornado. Now, down toward the bottom of the tornado, it's translucent. In other words, you can begin to look through it and see the stairs. It's the damnedest thing you've ever seen. I'm going to get that one up on the bulletin board for you as soon as they send it to me to scan. I've got a scan of it right now, but I want to be able to scan it myself at a higher resolution rate. If you want to see a ghost, there is a man in Arizona who was a stone mason. He built stone he did basements. And he did a wine cellar for a fellow in about a 100-year-old house. He was very proud of the work that he did, and when he was done, he took a photograph of his stone masonry work. It was beautiful. Only thing is, when the picture came out, quite clearly a translucent being appeared in the photograph, and it was captured very, very well on film. And we have published this photograph in our newsletter. And I might add, I've got it on our bulletin board. So if you want to download the picture of the ghost, you can call area code 702-727-1709 24 hours a day. Let me give that number to you again, 702-727-1709. And if you're able to download with Z-Modem protocol, you can download a photograph of this ghost. You take a look. There's a face, there's a body, there's arms, there's legs. It's a ghost. It's clear. It's in color. There's no mistake about it. There's some sort of spirit, some sort of entity in that photograph, and you're welcome to download it and take a look for yourself. We do a lot of that. We try to make some of this material available to you, so it does not all have to be the theater of the mind. That's what radio is. I want you to be able to see what I see so that you can see that I'm not totally crazy. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Hi, Art. This is Aaron calling from Los Banos, California.
Hi.
Hi. I have a really good ghost story I wanted to tell you.
Let her go.
Okay. This story happened in 1951. It was given to me by my father, and it happened to his cousin named Norbert. And he was at a movie theater and in Morgan Hill, California, and he was leaving, going towards San Jose. And there's a stretch of road they call Monterey Highway that they called the Blood Alley. And one night after the movie was done, he was heading home to San Jose, heading north.
Sure.
And he was going about 45 miles an hour in his old car.
I know the road, by the way.
Yeah. And there's a little highway, and while he was going up there, he saw this, beautiful young-looking lady on the side of the road and walking really slowly. And he kind of slowed down, and he was looking over at her, and she had a beautiful white dress on, and she was looking down, and he slowly passed her, and he looked in his rearview mirror, and he saw her, and he slowed down a little bit more and was going, 10 miles an hour, and for some reason he got a really nervous feeling inside, and he slowly sped up because he was scared. He didn't know, exactly what it was, and if it was something different, he got a different feeling inside, and he said he sped up a little bit, and he was going about 35, 40 miles an hour, and he happened to look back again, and it didn't go any further away. It wasn't leaving. And that really started...
You mean the lady in the white dress was as close to him?
Yes. As it was the first time he saw her.
Uh-huh.
And he really started getting nervous. And, he put his foot on the pedal and got up to about 50, 55 miles an hour.
Sure.
And he looked in the mirror, and it wasn't any... As a matter of fact, it was getting closer to him. Now, it was getting closer to his car.
Really?
On the passenger side.
There are many, sir, that have died on that road.
Yes, very. There was a lot of fatal accidents back in the 50s and earlier on and later on also. And as he got up to speed, he started really stepping on. He was frightened now. By this time, he was really frightened. He was going, tipping the car out to, I guess, 70, 75 miles an hour is what he said.
That'd be my reaction.
Yeah, he was really moving now.
I'm the let's get out of here kind of person.
Yes. And he looked in the mirror this time, and he looked in as a matter of fact, he didn't look in the mirror. He looked over to his right side where his little side mirror was, to get a better picture. And, the worst thing possibly happened that he thought happened. And there was a white dress floating next to the car. And when he looked at the window, he said he saw a face of a skeleton with white straw hair looking at him with its mouth opened. And he was so frightened that he could not believe it. He slammed his brakes on in the middle of the road. It was late at night. in the middle of the road, slammed his brakes on, closed his eyes as tight as he could, said a prayer, and when he looked back, it was gone. He turned around and went back to his mother's house, which was about 20 miles the other way, and didn't go look back at all. And he went home and he told the story and told it to the whole family. And he well, as far as I know, he never went down that road again, if he could.
These things change your life forever.
Yes.
Thank you very much for the call. It's one thing to tell them. It's another to really experience them. When you do, it changes your life forever and ever. Because it does not matter what anybody else believes or chuckles about or laughs about. If you experience something like that, you're never, ever going to be the same. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Dennis from Vancouver.
Washington?
Yes.
All right.
Let's see. I've got a ghost story. Sort of a ghost story. Almost a ghost story.
Look, that's like being almost pregnant. Either you're a spirit or you're a physical entity. It's one or the other.
Well, I'll explain it and go from there.
All right, then maybe I can tell you.
I was up at Yosemite, National Park in California.
Yes.
And doing a Ouija board.
Here we go.
There were, I guess, about 10 or 12 people in the room. There was only 2 of us on the board. The other people were, standing around watching, contributing their energy. And we got something that came across as being, negative. I don't necessarily want to say evil, but definitely negative oriented.
Do you want to tell us what it was?
Well, it wouldn't give us a name, but the impression that I have was that it was something higher up than just an ordinary demon. It was very strong, very intelligent.
Now, was this manifesting itself simply through moving on the Ouija board and spelling things out, or was
That's the way it started.
Okay.
We were, asking questions of it. At first we didn't know that it was evil, but, having done the Ouija board for several years prior to that, we've learned to ask appropriate questions to determine whether it's a positive or a negative entity. And after having determined that it was a negative entity, we were going to stop, but the rest of the people in the room wanted to continue because they were fascinated. So we went ahead and continued with it, which of course was our mistake. But after a while, it told us to turn the lights off.
Oh, it did, and you listened, right?
Yeah, we turned the lights off. We turned the candle on.
All right, I'll tell you.
Lit a candle.
Lit a candle. I'll tell you what. I'm coming up on a break. I want you to hold this story for the break. All right?
Okay.
All right. Stay right where you are. We will shortly be back. You're listening to an annual event called Ghost to Ghost AM. I'm Art Bell. Put your seatbelts on, everybody. It's going to be a rough ride.
Art Bell is taking calls on the wildcard line at 702-727-1295. That's 702-727-1295. First-time callers can reach Art Bell at 702-727-1222. 702-727-1222. Now, here again, Art Bell.
Top of the morning, everybody. Good to be here. It's Ghost Stories and Ghost to Ghost all night long. Tell you what, let me take care of business here at the beginning. Then we'll jump back into it. How's that? Clear sailing, right on up, or would that be broom riding to the top of the hour?
hospital, and we did turn the lights off.
Bad move.
Yeah, well, we found that out the hard way. We continued, speaking with it for about a minute or so. Yeah, it. Unbeknownst to us, back behind the group, towards the corner of a room, a light started to form, just in the middle of the air. It started off real small, but it was real bright. It was actually lighting up the room.
Right.
The room got real cold, real fast. There was no bad smell or anything, but it was quite cold all of a sudden.
That'd be enough for me. Now, what I want to know, first of all, before you continue is, I'd be out of there. I mean, in a flash, I'd be out of there. Light begins to form where there ought not be light. The room gets cold. That'd be all I'd need.
Since my friend and I had been doing it for, on a semi-regular basis for a couple of years, we were fairly fluent, at least up to that point. We hadn't, gotten anything that strong before, but, we pretty much knew how to, deal with it once it got to that point. My friend started getting sick to his stomach. I started, getting a little bit of a headache. So we stopped, with the board itself and basically moved back away, relaxed ourselves, started saying some prayers, at least I started imagining a golden light around myself, which is what I consider a protective light, and went from there, and we just left the board alone, and the light did fade. We turned on the room lights itself, and the light just faded out. And
well, that's good. There are a lot of people who would say to you, you should have been praying in the first place, not messing around with the Ouija board.
Well,
because you know what can happen, sir?
Oh yeah, I know
you can bring something like that into this world or across from wherever it comes from, and you can put your Ouija board away, and it won't matter because it's in.
Right. Yeah. Once it's done its full transformation crossover. Yeah. But we managed to stop it in time.
So what would you advise people out there about Ouija boards?
Well, first of all, there are several good books out there. If you're really determined to use one, read the books on it first. The best thing to do is to, one of the most common questions, if you get a negative-oriented spirit, one of the most common questions that it will ask is, can I come in? And never think that it's referring to coming into the room or into your home or whatever. When it's asking that question, it's wanting to come into you. And you always say no. And if you get a question like that, I would suggest that you stop and don't mess with it anymore.
Okie dokie. Thank you very much for the call. There are many out there who probably ought not mess around with this kind of thing at all. It's very serious. It's not a joke. A Ouija board is simply an instrument, in my opinion. Now, it may be a particularly powerful instrument, but you can invite these sorts of forces in with or without a Ouija board. And my advice to you is, don't do it. Like an unwelcome in-law coming to visit, it might not leave. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Top of the morning to you.
Hello, Art. This is Jeff. I'm calling from Denver.
Denver, yes, sir. K-How, I imagine.
Yes, and I have a true fact story that I can relate to you about spirits, ghosts, or whatever you want to call them.
Let her rip.
I was living in an apartment complex, and a guy came over to me. I met him just inadvertently, and I was working in the legal field, and he asked me to check out whether or not his wife had been married before, and I did that, and I gave him information, and he came over to my apartment.
Had she been? I just want to know.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it was bigamy.
Oh my.
He was married to her for 10 years, and she never got a divorce. So he came over to my house. He was crying.
Sure.
I took him over to his apartment, tried to calm him down, and he went into a rage. He started tearing telephones out of the wall, breaking lamps, tables, etc. And then he came at me like he was going to attack me. He got right up close to me, and he fell down, and he started to convulse. And I thought, well, this guy has epilepsy or something.
Sure.
And then he jumped up again and did the same thing again and went down like someone hit him in the head with a ball bat. And It was frightening. The hair on my head went up. His eyes were rolling back. He was foaming at the mouth.
You're saying it was like he was in combat with some force.
I don't know what was going on, but what I can say that really frightened me was he was speaking out of his own mouth and cursing me and doing all this, but there were multiple voices coming out. Sometimes there were one, sometimes it sounded like 2 or 3 or 5 or 6. And then he stopped breathing, and the guy was foaming at the mouth and that. I went down, I checked his pulse and all that. I had to give him CPR, get him breathing again, and I had to run over. He pulled the phone out of the wall. I had to run over to the neighbors and ask them to call the cops, and then the cops, the fire department, the EMTs, all them came over. They took him off to ER, and I thought, well, you know, when he was talking to me, it was horrible. It was something I can't even explain.
What would you say? Would you think he was possessed, or was he being beaten by some outside force?
Well, all I can say is there were voices coming out of his body when his eyes were rolled back, and he was foaming at the mouth. He was writhing on the floor, and sometimes it sounded like one person talking. Sometimes it sounded like 5, 4, whatever, talking. And so I gave him the CPR. They took him off, and then that was about 11 o'clock at night. And then about 4 in the morning, they let him out of ER, and he came back to my apartment. And I said, get out of here. I don't want to talk to you.
I'm sure.
Leave, go, now. And then about 5 months after that, I met him in a parking lot of a shopping center. And I said, do you realize what's going on? Do you understand? And he said, yeah, can you imagine what those cops did to my apartment? I said, the cops didn't do anything. You did that. And I talked with him for a while, and then he told me that he was an immigrant from France. He was in an orphanage in France, and as far as these convulsions and stuff, I asked him if he was epileptic or all that, and he said no. And I was talking with him, and then he said, I was in an orphanage in France, and 2 priests told me I was possessed. And I said, oh, gee whiz, and that was the end of it. I didn't talk to him after that.
That's enough. All right, my friend, thank you. That's quite enough. Well, what to say about that? We were talking about inviting entities in a few moments ago. Maybe on occasion they invite themselves in. Maybe on occasion they take the minds of those who can be taken. Had you thought of that? Wildcard line, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning, WBC, Duluth Superior.
In Wisconsin.
Actually, I'm in Duluth. But
Duluth, Minnesota. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, your Detroit station is coming through pretty good, too.
All right.
Say, are you going to tell us what happened to your Ouija board?
Absolutely not.
Can't talk you into it, huh?
No, that's one story I really won't tell. It scares me, and I don't like telling it. Not even on this day. It scares the hell out of me. That's one thing that really did scare me, and so I warn people about Ouija boards. How about you? Do you have a story?
Yeah, I got a quick one for you.
All right.
Back in the 50s, my mom was seeing a gentleman in her school. She was a junior in high school. I guess they were really in love with each other, this, that, and the other thing. And one night, she was sleeping, and she just kind of stirred in bed, and she woke up and saw him standing in the room, their bedroom. What are you doing here? And he just kind of faded away.
No.
And the next day she found out he was killed in a car accident, so.
Oh, there's a lot of stories like that. There's a lot of stories. Thank you very much. Now, you see, I believe we had Brad Steiger on a couple of weeks ago, and actually we've been kind of doing the warm-up to Halloween for some time now. But there are many, many stories like that. It seems when many die, the energy that is us, the energy that may be our soul, our essence, whatever it is you want to call it, you give your own name to it, has something that it must say to somebody that it has left behind. It must say it, and somehow that energy, either still here on Earth or from elsewhere, finds its way back long enough to assure the person that it loves, or to pass a message that must be passed, information that a loved one must have, and somehow the energy makes it back. Don't ask me. I just do talk shows. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Thank you.
Where are you?
Pardon?
Where are you?
Corpus Christi, Texas.
All right, welcome.
Welcome. Yes, I have several ghost stories, but I know I don't have that much time.
Now, give us your best.
Oh, the best. Okay. One time my husband and I had a disagreement, and he had been, just frolicking and carrying on, and I'd about had it. And I was very upset, and my mom told me, well, you need to cool down, and so she said, let's go to this thrift store that happened to be in a hospital. And we were walking down the corridor.
Why is it that when women get upset, they go shopping? It's true, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, it is. But anyway, my mom and I were walking down the corridor, and in the hospital, you hear there's like speakers, and there's like, Dr.
Jones.
Dr. Jones wanted an ER, and you really don't pay attention to these things.
That's right.
And anyway, I was upset, and she says, calm down. I said, no, this is it. I am upset. And nothing you can say, Mother, is going to change my mind. She says, well, I really think you need to cool down. I said, well, nope, that's it. At that point, we heard a voice walk by, and it just asked in a real deep voice, where did you leave Ben? And we didn't pay any attention to it until we walked about 2 feet. And then my mom and I looked at each other, and we turned around together, and we saw a tall, almost Frankenstein stature man and a short man. And they both had on those white gowns, and their skin was gray tone. And we both looked at it, and then I kept looking at it, and then the tall guy turns around in like a Frankenstein stance and looks directly into my eyes. And he lifts his head up just a bit, like telling me, I'm going to get you. Because you're vulnerable. Because you can be mine. And then he just turns around and he walks off with the other short guy. And we both looked at them, and their skin tone was like, it was gray, as if they were had been dead for years. And then I looked at my mom, and she looks at me, and she says, "Make the sign of the cross." We both made the sign of the cross. And she says, "Look, when you're this upset with somebody, the evil spirits know that you're vulnerable. And at this point," she says, "you need to cool down, because this is how bad things happen."
Well, I'll bet you if her first speech didn't work, this one did.
Yeah, well, I still haven't forgiven him, but,
you did calm down.
Oh, yeah, I did calm down. And there are, I just want to tell everybody that there are bad spirits out there.
Yes.
And that when you're being negative and you're vulnerable and you don't have the fear of Christ or something that's more powerful than them, then they can get you. But if you have, if you can say a prayer now and then,
it's a matter of weakness.
It's a matter of like you were saying. It's a matter of weakness, and they'll come right on in, and this is how bad things happen.
It's such a good point. Thank you. Even if I were to relate it to what I do, and on this program, we talk about a million things. This is like any other, not like any other program you've ever heard. We delve into areas that are there really is no explanation for it. I can't put it into words. You're just going to have to listen to the program, not just this one, but the one we do on a regular basis, and you'll begin to get the idea. We don't bore in. We're not like other talk shows. We don't bore in only on politics or anything else. We do whatever comes up on any given night. And occasionally, we'll be in the political arena, or we'll be talking about something very terrestrial, and somebody will push my button. Now, in latter years, I've tried to let it happen less and less, but my button can be pushed. And there have been, over the years, a few times, mind you, a few times when I have virtually lost it. I mean, I have become red-faced, heart-pounding, totally out of it, angry, and just totally blew up on the air. It does not happen very frequently, but it has occurred. Now, let me tell you, when that does occur, folks, as this lady just said, in my opinion, these are very, very vulnerable moments. And it's possible that if there is something close, something waiting for you. When I heard a knock at the door opened, and a sailor, that's in quotes, leaned in and said, "Mr. Blank, you're needed in B1 engineering room. One of the mains is making bad noises, and the watch needs you." Got to the engine room fast as I could. The door opened as I got there, and one of the sailors said, "I was just coming to get you." I told him I came as soon as I was called. His reply was, "Huh? This just happened, and I was just coming to get you." Another time, I saw the hatch to the emergency diesel generator room close and the lock wheel spin and lock. On entering the compartment, there was no one there. It's a small area with no place for anyone human to hide. The third time the ghost made himself known was to a woman who worked for the district office. She was updating blueprints while we were moored in Long Beach. Suddenly, it burst into the mess hall, so scared she was shaking. She told us she had seen a translucent, transparent sailor walk out of a bulkhead of the passageway, glare at her, continue on down the hall. She never came back on that ship. Jim, U.S. Coast Guard, retired. Shelton, Washington. Thank you, Jim. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hi, Art. This is Jamie calling from Houston, Texas.
How you doing, Jamie?
I'm just fine. I'm a first-time caller, and I want to say that I've personally never seen a ghost, but the story I wanted to tell you has been in the family over 90 years, so I thought I might tell you. It's coming from 3 generations.
You might tell me.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, my grandmother used to tell me, but her grandmother told her when she was a girl, her uncle, her mother's brother, his wife died after they had had a new baby, and he had a little girl that was 6 years old,
Right.
and then they had a new baby. Well, when he would get the little girl and the baby bedded down at night, you know, there were no electric lights. It was just old shacks in South Carolina. He would go out late at night, you know, for a couple of hours, you know, but he would leave a fire burning in the fireplace.
Sure.
Well, one night he went out and he didn't come back. He stayed out a little late, and the baby started to cry. And the little girl, being 6 years old, she was afraid because the fire was burning out. She was afraid to get up. So after a while, the baby cried and cried. After a while, she heard this thump, and then something came down the fireplace. So the girl said it looked like a big bird, and the bird stood right in front of the fireplace. And it started fanning its wings. And the fire just rose up, and she could hear a voice saying, "Get up and give Mama's baby some water." She couldn't see the face of the bird. She could only see the back, but she knew that was her mother's voice. So she walked around the bird and got the baby some water. When the baby was back down, the bird went back up into the fireplace just like it came, and the fire burnt real high all night long. And the little girl was telling her father about this big bird that came down the fireplace and told her to get up and give Mama's baby some water. So when he told his mother, which is my grandmother's grandmother, my grandmother's 85 now, she told him never leave the children alone anymore. But it was just amazing how something good, I guess we could call it a ghost or whatever, but the mother just wanted her to get a baby some water, you know, little girl like that.
Well, I suspect in the spirit world there's good and there's evil.
Sure. And I just thought I wanted to share that with you because that's not evil. It was a good thing.
I appreciate it.
And my grandmother's handed it down, and I suppose when my son gets old and has grandchildren, I'll hand it down to him. But thank you, Art, for having me, and I'm listening to you.
All right, I'm glad. Thank you. That's KTRH, Houston. Now, I agree with that lady. There's good and there's evil. How many of you saw a movie called The Stand? Her bird story reminded me of this. In The Stand was a wonderful movie. The first hour of it is possibly some of the best I've ever seen. It kind of deteriorated, in my view, after that, the television version. But in The Stand, you may recall the large, black, evil bird. Well, I broadcast, for those of you who are just joining us, from my home, here in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere, in a little town called Pahrump, Nevada. Laugh, if you will. At any rate, our town is famous for many things, but one of them is big black birds. And the movie they used, the bird they used for the movie, The Stand, came from right here in Pahrump. And those birds are all around me. So these are some of the biggest, but these birds are big enough to carry cats off. You don't mess with the birds out here. I don't know why they're so common to this area, but they're here. Big, big birds. Birds so big that if you can get near them and they begin to take off, their wingspan as they begin to beat their wings to get their big bodies in the air, you can feel the draft. They are that big. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi.
Hi, Art. How are you?
Okay. Where are you?
I'm in Reno right now.
Reno, KOH.
That's right.
Yes,
This story happened to me, I would say it was 91, 92. I don't remember the exact date. I was living in Guam.
Guam?
And I was at a friend's house, and he was on his way out of the door. I'd just shown up, and he's like, well, hey, look, I'm going to a rosary, which is really common out there. It's very, very Catholic, and it's kind of like the remembrance of their loved ones that have passed away.
Sure.
He's like, look, I'm on the way to this rosary. How about this? Come with me. That way it'll keep it real short. We'll just stop in. We'll, say hello, blah, 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 whatever, pay our respects, and then we'll take off.
Right.
Well, we get there. Everything's kind of fine. Everybody's kind of just mellow, and it's mostly just the immediate family of this guy that had passed away.
Yes.
And it was a guy that my friend had went to school with.
Mm.
And so we're standing there, and the guy that died's little sister came in. She was about maybe 4 or 5 years old, crying. She comes running from down the hall, and I don't remember the dead guy's name, but I'll just say David. She was crying, and her mother's like, what's the matter, hon? And she's like, well, David's here. And she was like, I don't want to hear that. Just kind of calm down. She's like, Mommy, David's here. He's here. And the grandmother said, look, just, your mother doesn't need this right now.
Sure.
And so everything was fine for about 15 minutes. Next thing you know, she's standing there. She says, look, there he is. And we all just kind of stopped, and we're all looking down the hall, and there's nothing. And she's like, can't you see him? And we're like, no. And the grandmother by this time is getting a little irate, and the mother's pretty much crying pretty profusely, I guess. And it wasn't a really good scene at this time.
I've got you.
So everything kind of chilled out a while, and I'd say about 5 minutes passed. She walks down the hall, comes back, and she's just saying, look, David wants us in his room now. And, just to kind of humor her, I guess, the grandmother told my friend to go in the room with her.
Sure.
And also her older brother, the one that was older than the one that had died. So I just followed because, I don't know, it's kind of like one of those little horror movies, I guess. You want to know what's going on. So I followed him into the room, and she's like pointing to these I guess they're cupboards or whatever, but they're kind of like sliding doors above the bed, and they're about 6 feet up in the air. And she's like, he wants us to open those. So my friend goes over to open it, and he can't make it budge. He cannot make this little door to this cupboard slide over. So he asked me to help him. And I get up there, and I'm not a little guy. I'm about 200 pounds and about 6 foot.
Right.
And I was budging and just pulling and pushing, and we tried everything to get this open. There's 2 of us. And we couldn't do it. And, I'm starting to get a little, not really upset, but just aggravated.
Sure.
And she's, starting to cry again, saying, do it, do it, do it. And so the mother walks in, and she's like, calm down, calm down. Well, she said, and then the little girl said, no, he wants me to open it. So my friend picked her up, and she slid it open with not even a budge. It was just like she could have used her pinky.
Yeah.
And in there were a bunch of personal artifacts and pictures, and the first thing that they pulled out was a letter that he had written to his little sister in case something had ever happened to him.
Oh, my God.
And it was the scariest thing. I mean, yeah.
Well, I listen, thank you very much for the story. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. That, though, is typical. And there are 2 things I would take from that. One, again, a person who has died coming back to give a message that must be given. Something that must be released from that spirit before it is released. But the other aspect of that story that I find intriguing is that I believe that little children, have more of an ability to see, experience, or touch the other side than we do. Now, I wouldn't pretend to be able to tell you why, and there are adult sensitives, certainly, who have either maintained or nurtured that ability to see or reach or talk to the other side. But children, in their innocence, I think, have something that the rest of us begin to lose as we get older. Because of the noise of society, the noise level, the signal to noise level, if you will. It was a deep thing that is either in all of us, or was once in all of us, or is still in all of us, that fades. But, you know, in children, it has not yet faded. So children have a unique kind of sensory ability the rest of us do not have. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Good morning.
How you doing, Art?
Okay, where are you?
I'm in Canton, Michigan, which is just west of Detroit.
Excellent. WJR, I bet.
You betcha.
All right.
I just want to tell you about a really scary ghost story that involves my brother. This is back in 1983, October 7th.
Yes, sir.
And,
you remember the date that well, huh?
well, I sure do, because I was on the road. I was playing with a band in Saginaw, Michigan.
Ah, yes.
Playing at the Ford Dean Hotel. And I finished the job about 2:30 in the morning, and I went up and I had a couple of beers, and I laid down, and all of a sudden, you know, I woke up and I was at the top of the stairs. We were staying on the second floor of the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden I felt a arm around me, and it was like I heard a, "Hey, brother, go back to your room. You got to go to sleep." Well, all of a sudden the next night, I got a call from my mother that my brother had committed suicide, and he had died 2 days earlier on the 6th.
Oh, boy. Any other visits, or was that it?
No, he visited me for about the next week and a half.
He did?
Yes.
And talked with you?
It was like I could feel a cold stare over me.
A presence.
Yes.
Not unusual. Again, really typical.
It was very strange.
People pass, and yet, for some reason, they don't quite pass. They're not quite ready. And I guess that was the case with your brother. Now, I'm curious. Were you comforted by that or frightened by it?
I was comforted very much.
Did it change you?
Yeah, I think it did.
I mean, does it tell you there is an afterlife?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Yeah. I sure do appreciate your story and your call. Thank you. You know, that is what it's all about. The search. Now, how are we to know there really is another side? Well, he knows. Other people who have experienced things like that, they know. And I may know something, but I don't want to talk about it. I'll let you do the talking. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Good morning.
Well, how art thou, Grandmaster of all Nye County?
Well, thou art fine if you would turn your radio off.
Okay, I sure did. Sorry about that, Art.
Sorry. Where are you?
I'm calling from Fresno, California, and I'm on KMJ 580.
That's the one.
You got it. I want to say one thing. I really enjoy your show, and I enjoy Dreamland immensely.
Thank you. It is a different kind of program.
Well, it certainly is. I think I have nightmares every Sunday night. Well, anyway, if I may relate a story to your audience, I don't know if it's necessarily a ghost story, but I always thought it was spooky, and I always think of it from time to time, and I tell people. Well, one Saturday morning, it was back in 1988. It was 2 weeks before I was going to go out of town. That's how I remember. I started to wake up on a Saturday morning. All of a sudden, this blue light shined. It was like a blue light shine inside of my head.
Inside? Wait a minute. Inside of your head?
Yeah, it's like a TV. All of a sudden, like a TV or an image flickers inside of my head.
Okay.
And then from here, get a load of this. I saw it was like these people, like in a large or a fairly good-sized underground cavern or hallway or room.
Really?
And it was this swath. They were bathed in blue light. There was 4 of them. They were tall. They had like jeweled masks on and robes. And I had the feeling that the ones in the black were women, and their hair was like kind of longish and black. And then the men had gray robes, and their skin was like white, like Mickey Mouse. And it lasted for about 30 seconds. And then from time to time, I think of it, maybe it's symbolic of something or what. But I'll tell you, I was sure startled, but I think subsequently I've told people about it, and they said, well, maybe there's a symbol there. Or
What would you call that? A vision?
I don't know, but for a moment, since then I haven't had something like this, but ironically, I'd been thinking that before I went to sleep, how we can possibly communicate with our ancestors psychically. And I don't know if it's a possibility.
Why do you think they were your ancestors?
Well, I mean, I got to thinking about that subject by coincidental. I don't think that they are, but I got the feeling they're from overseas. I don't know if that's of any importance.
Maybe,
or not.
all right, thank you very much. Maybe what happened is you just sort of crossed psychic paths for a few moments with somebody who was doing some kind of experiment somewhere else, or somebody else who was dabbling in areas they perhaps should not have been, and you were simply the receptor for that tampering. Now that's an absolute stab in the dark for somebody who is simply a talk show host and listened to your story. I don't have the slightest idea what it was. But if you'd had a couple, it certainly would sober you up, wouldn't it? We'll be back. There'll be more. This is Ghost to Ghost AM. And just as before, it stopped after the 21st. I went to my doctor. I discussed it with him, and he gave me some pills. Anyway, last month, it began again, and the pills did not work. As the 21st approached, the thrashing feeling would be more intense and last longer to the point where I could no longer get any sleep. Now, after 2 days of no sleep, I came home from work, and a neighbor, who I've been having a passing acquaintance with, noticed my haggard look. He asked me if I was sick. I told him that I wasn't getting much sleep lately. One thing led to another, and before I knew it, I told him of my strange tale, but I left out the thing about it only happening during the month of September. Now, this guy has lived at this complex for 15 years, and here's what he told me. Quote, I often wondered why no one stayed for very long in your unit. Now I think I know. Back in September of 1981, a young lady lived in your apartment, and later that month was found dead on her bed. The autopsy showed that she had been strangled and put up one hell of a fight. End quote. Now I believe the thrashing about my bed is the spirit of this lady. Another thing that's strange is that it only happens during the day, not the night. Therefore, I feel she must have died during the day. What do you think? What should I do? Jim in Phoenix, Arizona. Buddy, I wouldn't begin to try to tell you what to do. I don't know. More Ghost to Ghost AM in just a moment. I call it that. Normally the name of the show, by the way, is Coast to Coast AM. But tonight, and maybe a bit of tomorrow night, it's Ghost to Ghost. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Good morning. Where are you calling from, please?
Houston, Alaska.
Houston, Alaska.
Right.
All right. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. My name's Linda.
Hi, Linda.
And let me tell you first that I was born on Friday the 13th. And this story that I'm going to tell you happened to me 35 years ago when I was 13 in a place called Westfield, Massachusetts.
All right.
And at 13, I went to a public school there. And at 13, I had a crush on a boy that went to Catholic school. And I talked a couple of my friends in on a Monday night to go to see him after catechism got out.
Ah, yes.
And we had a curfew time. We had to be home. And we knew we were going to be late. So my friends, which was kitty corner to the church, was an old cemetery. And it had the wrought iron and the stone wall.
Oh,
and
yes.
As a child, I don't remember it ever being used, but it was an old cemetery. It was pretty shut down. And my friends talked me into going through the cemetery to take a shortcut home. So I was always a tomboy. I wasn't afraid of anything. So we took off through the cemetery running. And halfway through the cemetery...
Well, if you weren't afraid, then why were you running?
Well, we had a deadline to get home.
I've got you. All right.
Okay. We took off running through the cemetery, and halfway through the cemetery, I fell through the ground.
I beg your pardon?
I fell through the ground.
Through the ground. In other words,
into a hole which I assumed was a grave.
Grave, yeah, right.
And the dirt came in down around me.
Oh, boy.
And I was screaming. I had bugs that I assumed were termites. They had wings on them that I was covered with.
Oh, my God.
And at that time, as 13 years old, I was only about 5'1". I didn't know how I was going to get out of here. I remember screaming. And I felt something around my feet, a pressure, nothing, that was grabbing onto me, but some kind of pressure that lifted me up out of that dirt. And I was at a dead run, and I didn't stop until I got to the other side of the cemetery. And my friends were there, and I was covered with dirt, and I was covered with all these, which I assume probably were termite bugs that were all over me. And I never, to this day, have been in a cemetery. I'm 48 years old, and I've never been back in a cemetery to this day.
I cannot say I blame you. That, to me, would be the end of me, dear, because I would have a heart attack right on the spot.
That was very scary.
Fortunately, your heart was young enough to take it, I guess.
Right.
Great story. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care from Alaska. Oh, man. Can you imagine running across a cemetery in the dark, falling into a grave with bugs crawling all over you? I remember, you remember Poltergeist? I don't know, it's etched into my memory. Do you remember at the end when the graves began popping up and they fell into the pool? Do you remember that? And the skeletons and the sort of half fleshy, half non-fleshy things began popping up in the pool. I wouldn't make it through that. I wouldn't even begin to make it through that. I'd turn around in that mucky water and look at one of those flabbing flesh things, and I'd have my heart attack on the spot. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Good morning.
Hello, Art.
Hello, where are you?
Austin, Texas.
Austin, welcome.
Yes, I'm calling about a story that if my family finds out I'm telling this, I'm going to be in big trouble, but it occurred in Louisiana about 100 years ago, and it's still occurring to this day.
Oh.
It's a 100-year-old ghost story that occurred originally in Coshada, Louisiana, and I had an aunt and uncle that lived 100 years ago, several generations removed, and they were recently married, and my aunt died shortly after the marriage, and the uncle was completely devastated. And when he was going to bury his wife, she was in her 20s, they hadn't been married for a year, he had the coffin ordered from New Orleans. He wanted a special coffin, he wanted a glass coffin, and he wanted her buried in Metairie Cemetery in New Orleans.
Metairie. Mm-hmm.
And he was told that it would take 6 months for the coffin to be ordered, and so he waited for the coffin to come up to Shreveport, up to his area, and he would keep the corpse upstairs in his house in the bedroom, and according to the servants at the house, he would kiss the corpse every night before he would go to bed.
Oh, boy.
The servant said that, he would order them to take the corpse out every day and air the corpse out in a wheelbarrow, and for 6 months, and he had a Ouija board, as you were talking about earlier.
Yes.
A Ouija board, the servant said he would talk to the corpse every night and have conversations, and apparently this was a jealous ghost, and the servants were horrified. They would not clean this room. They said that candles wouldn't light when they went up there. There was cold air. The candles would blow out. They could hear low-level whispers, and they said objects would fall from the room. And at night, they would, after a while, after a certain point, they would hear conversations between my uncle and some other voice.
Some other voice, the corpse, I presume. Oh, my God.
And as I say, no one would go into this room for many years. Eventually, the glass coffin did arrive. They did bury her in Metairie Cemetery in New Orleans. She's still there to this day in a crypt. And
did that end it?
No, because up until the 1970s, all of my relatives who would go to visit this house would not visit that room. They still said that cold area was still there. They could still feel the presence. I remember going there as a child with my aunt. My aunt had shaky legs; she wouldn't even walk up the stairs. They could hear the squeaky wheels of the wheelbarrow at night of the wheelbarrow that was supposed to air out the corpse. They could still hear that in the 1960s and 70s. And there was a portrait that they couldn't photograph.
Is this something that your family will not talk about?
It's not something that they're proud of. There is, but it is something that everyone knows about. And there is a certain member in the family who is a keeper of the key to the crypt, who does have a key to the.
Would you go in there?
Yeah, I guess I would. Just out of curiosity, because it's been something I've heard about all my life, and I'm curious about it.
All right. Well, I listen. I very much appreciate your call, but there's no way that I would. There's no way. Absolutely no way. Now, you tell me, you explain to me, but that man is just like the women in the low-cut dresses who, the moment you hear the bump and the grind in the basement, immediately do what? They go down the stairs to the basement, the one place where you know they ought not go. Everybody knows evil things lurk in dark basements, but there you go straight down there and see if that fellow had the key. Where would he go? He'd go look at the body. I know he would. I wouldn't. Would you? Listen, I want to tell you two things. One, if you would like a copy, and we have over 2 more hours of this program yet to do. This is one program that we make available to the audience. If you would like a copy of the program you are listening to right now, you can call 1-800-917-4278. Let me give you that number again because I know a lot of you are going to want it. It's 1-800-917-4278, and it is good now, 24 hours a day. It is the Ghost to Ghost Halloween show. One other little item. We know we're going on in a whole bunch of new affiliate areas this morning. Love to hear from you by fax. We do have a 24-hour-a-day fax service, which sounds pretty fancy. It's really just a fax machine in my living room. The number is area code 702-727-8499. Let me give that to you again. I'd love to hear from somebody in New York confirming we're on way back in New York, Rochester. Area code 702-727-8499. West of the Rockies, you're on the air.
Well, hello, Art.
Hello.
Is Scott from Graham, Washington.
Hello, Scott.
And this is something that happened over on the west side of the Olympic Mountains.
Yes, sir.
And it's up the Queets River. Anyway, there was 4 of us, and we had 2 pickup trucks and 1 camper on 1 truck. And we went up to this beautiful spot where the river, and on the other side of the river is a cliff with these just huge boulders, probably 5 to 1,000-pound boulders.
Big
just
rocks.
huge.
Big rocks.
Big rocks. And so we got up there, and it was dusk, and when it's dark up there, I mean, it is dark. I mean, you can't even see your hand in front of your face.
Understood.
And so we decided to sit all in one camper and have a good old poker game.
Mm-hmm.
So we were all sitting around playing poker, and it was about 1:30 a.m., and we heard some splashes in the river, and we heard some grunts.
Grunts.
Yeah, just kind of huge grunts. So we figured it was probably a bear out there having fun in the river, you know.
Don't like grunts.
Yeah, and so after a while, the grunts seemed to get louder, and we heard like big rocks hitting each other. You know how you can hear the crack of rocks?
Of course.
And after a while, these rocks seemed to get closer and closer to our camper. And you could feel the rocks hit the ground outside to kind of a big thud. And I'm telling you, we all looked at each other and we said, nobody's going outside. I mean, we were armed to the teeth, but we were scared to death.
I wouldn't. You mean like those gigantic rocks, coming out of the air and hitting the ground like that?
Yes. It's just like
bad.
somebody was over there throwing these huge rocks.
Uh-huh.
And then, I wanted to call you last week about the Sasquatch sound because you wouldn't believe this. I mean, the hair on the back of our necks was standing up. It's standing up now.
Was it like the sound I've got?
It was close, but not really. I mean,
we're closer to the first one that Linda Howe sent or the second one?
The second one.
That,
and
you
these
mean
sounds,
that absolutely horrible, it was I don't know what I would call that. I would call that, it almost sounds human. To me, it sounded like a man in horrible, horrible agony. That's the only way I can think to put it. Is that about the way it sounded?
Oh, you wouldn't believe it, Art. It was just about like that, and it was echoing up and down the river, and it was terrible. We were terrified, and these rocks you could almost hear them whistling through the air, and they were crashing on the other side of our camper. They were hitting in the water, and the cracking of the rocks. And this went on, Art, for 3 hours. And we were
What do you guys
scared.
do? You just sit there and sort of shake at the table,
well,
or what?
we're on the floor of the camper. we just couldn't move. We didn't know if one of these rocks were going to hit us.
Now,
or
you
what.
see, that sounds realistic to me. That's where I'd be, Florida the camper. You betcha.
And we were armed to the teeth, let me tell you, and I was ready for anything. And this went on for 3 hours, and it was about like 4:30 in the morning, and the sun started coming up. And we're all looking at each other going, thank God.
Yeah.
Especially because I had to go to the bathroom. But anyway, and so we finally had enough nerve to go outside the door because the crashing and everything had stopped like about an hour before the sun came up.
See, I would have waited, too, for the crashing to stop and for the sun to come up. Okay, sounds good so far.
Okay, so we decided we'd go outside. And finally we opened up the door, and we all got out, and I said, you guys get out here, you got to see this. And the other truck was just fine. But around our truck and the camper were these huge boulders in a circle around the camper.
Oh, my God. What, I presume to this day you have no idea what it was.
No, but it had to be something
awfully big.
Awfully big. Because it took us pushing with one truck and pulling with another to get him far enough out of the way so we could get the truck and the camper out.
That's an incredible story. Do you swear that's true?
Oh, yes. And this happened in 1975 because it's when I got out of the service, and all four of us got together because we used to go on camping trips when we were in high school. And to this day, when we get together, I mean, this, this is something we always talk about.
You still talk about. I can imagine you would. Well, that one is almost a topper. What an absolutely incredible story. And so that's where it ended. You hauled the rocks away, and that was it.
Yeah, we pushed them out of the way, and we got out of there, and I have never been up there again.
I can't blame you.
I will not go.
Thank you very much for the story. Thank you, sir.
Art.
Take care. Something that big with those kinds of rocks. No, thank you. This is Ghost to Ghost AM. I'm Art Bell. For some, we'll be right back.
I like to be educated, but I'm so frustrated. Hello to my loneliness. I guess that ignorance is bliss. Take me back to before I knew. Rewind, take it out of cue. Innocence can be a young man's game. Signed up for the hall of shame. I wish I knew how much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed. Stay up, I feel so outdated. How can we look the other way? Sun is out, but the sky is gray. What would happen if I took a chance? It's always hard at first glance. I don't wanna, but I know I gotta do it. The truth is hard to swallow, I think I'll chew it.
Cut it in another direction, so the road was almost grown over, and I remembered where it was. You know, it was one of the roads that trees had now come up in the middle of.
Right.
And we had no idea what the heck he was talking about, and he just kept going on. Somebody came by and said, "This isn't right." And he just kept going on and on. So finally we just left because he was just going ecstatic about it.
That's weird, all right. That's very weird. And so you just never found out anything more about this?
He still, I mean, every time I talk to the guy, he still goes on about this. He still thinks I had somebody up there with us. But where we were, it was impossible for anybody to have found us. I mean, you know, it was one of those places, if you were to get hurt or something, nobody would find you.
Well, I guess that's one of those things you're going to have to wonder about your whole life, huh?
Apparently. I have another quick one, if you don't mind.
Very quickly, yes.
I worked in a plant up in a little city up north of here called Lake Stevens. Actually, it's on the other side of the mountains from us.
Right.
And I was in working one night. Actually, it was a Prestolog plant, and it was very noisy, so you wear earplugs.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I heard somebody call my voice. There was only two of us that worked in the plant, so I figured it was the other guy, and he was out on the forklift outside. So I went outside, and as I'm going out, he's coming in and said, "What did you want?" There was nobody around. He said the plant had been doing it ever since they had built the plant. It's done that. One person will hear somebody call their name, and the other person will come in as the other person's going to look for the other one. But nobody could figure it out.
Well, it's just, it's in line. Thank you very much for the story. It's exactly the kind of thing we're talking about. Art, my father died of cancer in the summer of 1992. Now, I'm in the Navy, was stationed in Maryland at the time. I knew he was ill, but the cancer spread to his spine unexpectedly and caused him to become incapacitated literally overnight. My wife and I had to travel to the hospital in Florida. He was so incoherent by then that I never got a chance to speak to him one last time. He died a few days after our arrival, moments before we got to the hospital on that particular day. After paying my respects and comforting my mom, my wife and I left the hospital. We entered an elevator that was going down to the lower parking area. Suddenly, the elevator began going up and stopped on the next floor. The door opened, but there was no one in sight. Also, there were no stairs that anyone could have exited by. The doors began to close and then opened abruptly as if someone were blocking the entrance. This happened several times until my wife finally said, "Okay, Preston, knock it off." The doors closed. The elevator took us to our desired floor. I feel this was simply an attempt by my father to let me know that he was there, that he was okay. Just thought you'd enjoy the story. Thanks. James in Honolulu, Hawaii. There you are. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Good morning.
How you doing, Art?
Okay.
I've been trying to get a hold of you all night.
Where are you?
I'm in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, listening on KZIM.
Oh, that's right. You're on a portable phone, too, aren't you?
Cordless phone, yeah.
Yep. Do you have a regular one?
No, I don't.
You don't. All right. Well, we'll put up with it. Go ahead.
Well, I've got a story that's really gonna scare you and kind of scare me whenever I think about it. But I used to be in the Air Force, and I was stationed at F.E. Warren Air Force Base, Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Right.
And that's a really haunted base. If anybody knows about that base, they know what I'm talking about.
Haunted in what way?
Well, it used to be an old cavalry base, and there's been a lot of murders, a lot of cavalry murders, Indian murders, suicides, just stuff like that in the dormitories, and it's just a really haunted base. I mean, there's ghosts of dogs in the dorm that I used to live in.
Really?
Yeah, it was really scary, but I was going through some really rough times, and I just moved back into the dormitory, and I would every once in a while see this like dark cloud, like kind of like a gas cloud above my bed or down the hall, and then whenever I would look at it directly, it wouldn't be there anymore. And then I'd be getting dressed and taking care of my uniform, looking in the mirror and everything, and out of the corner of my eye, I'd see this face and these hands peeking at me around a corner. And I'd look, and nothing would be there. And the face was all black and had blue, kind of bluish eyes.
Dad.
I mean, dark blue, like a navy blue.
Uh-huh.
And, I mean, it was really scary. And then one night, I was missing home really bad, and I thought, well, my mom...
All right, sir, your phone is breaking up.
Okay, can you hear me better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Quit moving around.
All right, my mother is into the New Age stuff.
Yep.
She was telling me about a lot of this stuff she used to do, and I tried it once. I tried to go back home. She called it like astral projection. And I tried that. I didn't know how to do it, but I was laying down on my bed, and I was concentrating as hard as I could on home, and I felt myself sit up. But when I looked, I saw my body laying down, and I could see right through my legs. I could see through everything.
Ooh, that's weird.
Yeah, and then a friend of mine, I saw a friend of mine come through the door and say, "Hey, Spence, get up. Are you coming with us?" And at that moment, it felt like I was sucked down into my body. And it scared me so bad I never tried it again.
I don't blame you. Thank you very much for the call. It was a terrible phone, but a good story. And I also believe that projection from the body, what he called astral projection, is possible. That if we, kind of like in some of the movies that I've seen, Somewhere in Time particularly, our mind is capable of many, many things, including possibly time travel and out-of-body travel. I'm not an expert. I simply listen to the stories. On our first-time caller line, you're on the air. Hello there?
Hello, Art?
Yes.
Oh, my name is Samantha.
Samantha, that's a good Halloween name.
Yeah, I know.
Where are you?
I'm in Las Vegas.
Oh, wonderful. KVEG?
KVEG.
The big 840.
I love it.
Excellent.
Yes. Well, I just thought I'd tell you a few flower stories about my mother. She, one time I was talking to her. She died in 1982.
I'm sorry.
And she was talking to me about 1976 and on the phone. And she said, all of a sudden she's like, I smell flowers. You know, these, she was very strong, like stock or carnation. And she says, that's the flower my sister Edith likes.
Yes.
And about an hour later, she got a call that Edith had died.
Huh.
Then, when my mother died, I, of course, got the flowers, and I've been getting them, every year or so. It's like a bubble around your head. And if you walk away from it, you don't smell it. And you walk back to where you were, you smell it.
So it's in place, and you have to walk into it, literally.
Yes. Or I'll be sitting on the couch, reading or something, and all of a sudden it'll come around my head. And it's like a bubble. And it's sweet peas with my mother, because that was her flower. And if I walk away from it, it's gone. I go back, and it's there, and it'll last about 5 minutes.
Huh.
This has happened to two of my sons.
Energy.
Usually in doorways.
Uh-huh.
And you know, there's no flowers in the house, no perfume or anything. And you'll walk out of the doorway. My son would say, "What's that smell?" And I said, "Well, walk back in the doorway, and you'll find it again."
Huh.
And it's just her little visitation.
Well, I believe you. I surely do believe you, and I thank you for the call, and I'll tell you something. I've heard many stories that involve spirits of people and flowers. Flowers that have lived as long as a person lives, and flowers that have been healthy and thriving, and then the moment somebody dies, the flower, the bush, the tree dies. Is there some kind of sympathetic reaction? I don't know what you'd call it, but I have heard many, many such stories. In a world gone crazy, it's kind of nice to be able to relax, especially on a night like this. Put on some music and let it all go. That's what Higher Octave and their music does for me, and believe me, it'll do it for you, too. First, let us go east of the Rockies. You're on the air. Hello.
Hey.
Hey.
Wanted to get in a plug for satellite
too, because if it weren't for the satellite, I wouldn't be able to hear you right now.
You're in, where? Where are you?
Gainesville, Georgia.
Gainesville, Georgia.
WDUN. And we lose you at 5 a.m. Eastern.
Well, that's when I guess they begin their morning show.
Yes, it is, and I'd much rather listen to you.
Well, that's very kind. Yeah, we're on, I should tell people that, I guess. We're on F1, satellite to F1.
Oh, well, they've changed it back to C1 now.
C1, F1, a satellite band, any other name. And transponder number 5, and 5.8 audio. So there you are, everybody. So we're glad you have still got us. Do you have a story?
Yes, I do. In fact, I'm not sure just where to start, because the situation started with Ouija board, as you were talking about earlier. But the part I want to tell you about most occurred further on down, so I'll skip that.
All right.
I was my freshman year in a small southern college, and ran into a guy in the student center who started talking about witchcraft.
Yes.
And was telling us stuff and claimed to be a black witch, and had me, curious. And there were 3 others that were with us, that were with me a lot, that we were talking to him about it. And one day he wanted us to go with him that night to a black mass. And I was brought Protestant. I wasn't sure what mass was. And my best friend, my roommate, had a test scheduled the next day, so she said she wasn't going to go. She had to study and had to get some sleep.
Well, the key word, of course, was black. There are masses and masses.
Yes, and I don't know that I really believed that he was a witch. I was thought that a lot of it he was just, trying to take advantage of gullible freshmen. And
so there was a curiosity factor.
Yeah,
sure.
And so we decided we were going to go. And this was back during the time when the dorms were locked at 11 o'clock and the women were not allowed to be out of the dorms, and, back in the dark ages. And so I chickened out at the last minute and decided I wasn't going to go, because if I'd gotten, called out of the dorm, I could have been expelled, and I'd worked too hard to get to college to take the risk.
Right.
And so we had planned to leave by different doors and meet outside, and I didn't go. And I felt really bad. I felt like I was being punished for something I hadn't done because I wasn't able to participate.
Mm-hmm.
During the night, maybe 5 a.m., I'm not sure exactly, the fire alarm went off in the building. And it was an old building, and this happened periodically. And I wondered if maybe my friends had caused the alarm, somebody to set off the alarm for them to help cover getting back in.
Sure.
The next morning.
Sure.
So I, threw on my raincoat. We always kept a raincoat and shoes handy because the alarm went off so frequently, and headed out the front door. I was watching for them as I went out, and I saw them coming back in. And they were ahead of me, and I tried to, push through the crowd and catch up to them. And as they had gotten on the elevator, and just before the elevator closed, I got close enough to see them, and they were looking, facing forward, and they were white as a sheet. They looked like, some of the shock victims that you see sometimes on Red Cross disaster films.
Yes.
Walking around.
Yes.
And I didn't know what was going on, and so it was an old elevator, and it moved slow, so I went running on up the steps because I figured I could beat it up to 3rd floor where their room was, and catch them as they got off.
Yes.
Got started, and I was about halfway up, and I heard the alarm go off in the elevator. It had stalled between floors.
Oh boy.
And what had happened, I found out later, is they had packed like 15 people, just tight as they could pack them in there before the doors closed, and the capacity of the elevator was around 8,000 pounds or something. 800 pounds. It was just a small elevator, and they just had really overloaded it, almost double.
Okay, we're almost out of time, so quickly, what happened?
Well, bottom line, there's a lot more. The bottom line with them is I don't know where to go from this. When they finally got them, it took like 3 hours to get everybody out of the elevator, and my 2 friends were both in shock and were sedated, and their parents picked them up that day and took them home, and I didn't see them again. But there was a guy that disappeared that night also that we found out later. It took a few days. And the guy that I'd been talking to in the student center told me that he was going to turn up soon. And about 3 weeks later, we heard that his body had been found in the college lake. His throat had been cut, and it looked like his body had been drained of blood.
Oh, my God. All right. Well, look, we're going to have to leave it there because we're out of time, but that was pretty gory. A lot of bad stories seem to involve elevators, don't they? just recently found you for the first time on KABC 790 in Los Angeles, and I'm very glad to have done so. Great shows, thanks to you and KABC. From the time I was about 7 years old to 15, I used to have a recurring dream, premonition, maybe about once every couple of months. It would always end the same, with me sitting straight up in bed in cold sweats and scared so bad it's hard to describe. The dream always started with two guys in an old Jeep out in the desert, just cruising along. I can see the desert and the worn dirt road. I could feel the heat. I could hear the sounds as they're going down this old, totally deserted road. Everything's just fine. The Jeep begins to go up a long inclined hill. There are telephone poles along the left side of the road, and the road seems to be almost perfectly straight, stretching out behind, climbing with the slope in front. Up till here, everything's just fine. Then the Jeep crests the top of the hill, and I can never see anything that the two guys see. But what I do see is just their faces. Just sheer terror. Not fear, but something worse. Last time I would see that Jeep turn on its right side off the road about 20 feet, looking like it had been there for a long time. When I was 15, I went to school with a friend down to Salton Sea in California, the desert. Second day we were there, he said he wanted to show me some old abandoned building, so we took off in his grandfather's Jeep out what was called Power Line Road. Well, we were about an hour from the house. The road began to climb upward, power lines on the left. All at once, all that fear from the dreams came back like a tidal wave, and I began to freak. I'm yelling at Steve to stop the Jeep or I'm going to jump out. I was not going over the crest of that hill, no way. At first, he thought I was messing with him, but he realized I meant it. He stopped, and I told him about the dreams. He kind of laughed at them. But we turned around and never, ever went down that road again. I never had the dream again. But the hair on the back of my neck is standing up now the way it did that day. Dan in Los Angeles. I believe you, Dan. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Hi, Art. Cameron in San Francisco, KSFO.
Hi, Cameron.
Well, I got a whole bunch of them, and I had to think about it, and I finally came up with the best one that I've experienced.
That's what I like.
Okay. Well, this one, did you ever see 2010?
Of course.
Well, you remember where that ghost is on the ship and he says that something's about to happen, something wonderful?
I do.
Well, this is that kind of story.
All right.
When I was about 20, I just became a father on accident, and I was sitting in a karaoke bar sulking. I wasn't drinking, but I was in the karaoke bar sulking, getting ready to sing, and my girlfriend walked in, and she's about 6 months pregnant, and I wasn't supposed to be out that night. And I just figured, I got all this youth inside me, and I kind of realized at that point, I was just...
So you were going to try to sing away your blues.
Huh? I was going to sing away my blues. Going to try and sing it all away. I just wanted to ignore, the fact that I guess it's time to grow up.
I hear you. I mean, it is very sobering when she walks in and you see the big belly and you realize...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sitting there, and a few years before that, I made an oath, I swore, and this was a spiritual mistake on my part. I swore on my father's grave that I would quit smoking, and I'm sitting here in front of my computer with a cigarette right now.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm sitting in that bar, and then I got this strange feeling, right, that somebody was standing behind me. You know when you get that feeling like you're being watched?
Right.
Well, I'm sitting there, and I get this strange feeling I'm standing behind me, and since then I kind of think I got eyes in the back of my head, and I could almost make out this figure watching me.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Especially with all the phone calls you get, and who knows what might be standing behind you that comes through the phone lines like that one witch said.
You're absolutely right, yes. Don't remind me, please.
I won't. Well, at any rate, I'm standing there, and all of a sudden I feel these hands on my shoulder, and I knew, I just knew that it was my dad, and I could feel him standing there, putting his hands on my shoulder, going, "It's all right, son, you gotta grow up." And I could hear this little voice, and I swear to God, it was right through the music. I even remember the song was playing was White Rabbit, and I heard this voice say, "It's okay, it's just okay." And then I felt this light behind me, and he just left. And it kind of brought me, I've been listening to you talk about this God thing. How would God let himself be known? And after that moment, I kind of think that we just know. If God was to come here, if we're these humans, we just know it was him. We wouldn't have to.
We wouldn't have to wonder, huh?
Yeah. But the
it's a
one
good point.
thing, huh?
Yeah, I said it's a good point, that people would just know.
Yeah, we got it in us. But since that day, every time I look at my daughter, and right now I'm getting chills up my spine. I can see him in her eyes. I can see him. I don't know if it's, one of those reincarnation things or if it's, I don't know what it is, but I just get this eerie sense.
I understand.
That every time I look in her eyes, there's somebody I've known for years in there. But I don't know. I just thought I'd tell you about that one because it's my favorite.
I appreciate it, sir. And I appreciate your call. Thank you. Of course I know what you mean. And to look into your daughter's eyes and to see him. Well, that is one way we live on, isn't it? On the first-time caller line, you're on the air.
Hi, Art.
Hi.
I'm calling from Merced, KYOS.
Yes, indeed.
And mine's very short, and I don't know if it was a ghost or a real person, but I was up in the Santa Cruz Mountains in a Volkswagen, and 1970s somewhere, and with my friend, and we were coming back from a place up in the Santa Cruz Mountains called the Chateau Liberté.
Yes.
And anyway, we're coming down these mountains, and they're all curvy and everything, and as we came down...
Probably Route 17, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, matter of fact.
I know the road.
Oh, right, great. Well, then it's all rocky at some areas on the side with all it's all green and all that and trees but anyway, it's a 2-lane road, right? And we're coming along and it's down one of the downhill ways and there's this, we're kind of talking, a couple girls and we're talking and there's this man lying in the road on our side of the road, and he's lying in the road with his head on the white line, and he has on a suit that's like kind of checkered. It's not a normal suit, but it's a suit.
Right.
And we just notice it very quickly. It's a checkered suit, and he's just lying there, and we dodge him at the last moment, and that's all we ever saw of him. It was just a dodge of this man, but he was lying there, and he was smiling. He wasn't dead. He wasn't squished or anything. He was just lying in the road, and we looked back and we didn't, you couldn't see in the dark, but he wasn't, there wasn't a grimace on his face or any pain or anything. He was just lying in the middle of the road.
Well, you lie on the white line long enough and you will be squished.
Well, absolutely. But there was like headlights way in the distance behind us, and they didn't make a swerve or anything, so we didn't know. And one other really quick thing is my mother grew up in the hills of Virginia. And she told me lots of stories. They had many sisters, and 7 sisters. Anyway, they were coming home one night, and their mother through the woods, if you can imagine coming home through the woods at night, but they did it all the time then. And at any rate, they came in, and they were supposed to get home before dark, and they didn't. And there was a little creek-like thing that they had to jump over, and it was small enough to jump over. But when they jumped over, it was dark, and they were afraid of getting wet and getting in trouble. And as they jumped over, a match lit underneath of them out of the middle of the water. Yeah, there are many stories like that from them.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, take care. The one about the road, 17 is a rough highway. It's like Highway 1 in a lot of ways, though inland. And then there's Blood Alley up in San Jose. Roads where a lot of people have been killed tend to be roads that are haunted. It's not really a reach to understand why. People died there. Spirits, energy, linger on those roads. It's just the way it is. You don't believe? That's fine. But it is true, You're listening to Coast AM, actually this night called Ghost to Ghost. All right, back to the lines we go. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Ghost to Ghost AM.
All righty.
Where are you?
I am in Owensboro, Kentucky, listening to WMI.
It's a good place to be. Welcome.
Oh, thanks. Have you ever heard of a ghost fire?
A ghost fire?
Yeah.
Not exactly.
Our railway station here in Owensboro was converted into a pizza place, maybe.
I'm sorry, into a what?
A pizza. A restaurant.
Oh, I understand. Okay.
Into a restaurant.
Interesting.
And I worked there.
Uh-huh.
And there was this huge fireplace close to the kitchen. But it hadn't been used for years. There was no reason to. But you could hear the flames crackling in it and feel heat from it, but there wasn't anything there.
Oh, now that's weird.
Now, have you ever heard of anything like that? I know it happened. Everybody that worked there knew it.
Did it happen?
But we could never come up with an explanation.
Did it happen frequently?
Yes.
Oh, I don't think I'd like that.
Well, it was a spooky old place.
It just every now and then happened, huh?
Yeah.
So you could go over near it and warm yourself by the invisible.
You could feel heat from it. You could hear the fire crackling, but you didn't see any fire. It was just there.
No, you're the first.
Well, good.
But this is a place for first. I appreciate your story.
Okay.
Thank you. I have no idea what to say about that. No idea. The manifestations of whatever it is on the other side are nearly endless. You've heard how many tonight? How can you not wonder? As our scientists wonder about the 100 million planets that they say have inhabited intelligent life, how can you not wonder about the kind of stories you're hearing this morning? How can you not? First-time caller line, you're on the air. Hi.
Hi, Art.
Hello.
Finally, I got through. It's the 7th time.
Well, I'm glad you made it. Where are you?
Oh, I'm living in Reno, Nevada.
KOH.
I'm looking at my black cat right now.
I have 2 of them.
Yes, and my cat's name is Shadow. I've had him for 2 years.
You're kidding.
No, when I heard you had a Shadow, too, I said, oh, all right.
I do, and Shadow was so named because of Ghost.
Oh, I know the whole story. I listen to you every night. I have for 4 years, every night.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. So is KOH, I'm sure.
Yeah. Now, I've got to tell you my quick short story. I have a lot of stories. I lived in a house that was like the Amityville Horror.
Oh, you did?
Yes. But that's a long story. But I got a short one. When I was in high school, late 50s, I had an old 49 Ford, and I was driving down one of the Reno streets with my girlfriend. And we were talking, but now we're quiet, and this beautiful classical music came on. Mm-hmm. And it was very loud, and it was too loud. And I looked at her, I said, could you turn down the radio? And she said, yeah, that's loud. And she reached over and she said, you don't have a radio. And I said, oh, right. And we never discussed it.
No, I can well...
That reminds me of that fireplace story.
Yeah, it
Same
is.
type of thing.
It's kind of like that, isn't it? It's energy. It's energy from someplace else. It's a projection, or it's a time slip, or who knows what it is.
Right.
But it's something.
And Art, I wrote you a note, must have been a year ago when you first started fooling around with the Ouija board.
No.
I wrote to you at your home and told you, please don't fool with the Ouija board. And I don't think you remembered. You get so many letters and faxes.
I'll tell you, this Ouija board thing is something I will listen to stories, but I really won't talk about.
Yeah, but about 6 months ago, you said at Halloween you would discuss it. And
well, I did.
That it must be really something. I would love to hear the story because I've got my own.
Well, if you want to briefly tell us yours, go ahead.
Oh, I wrote you a letter on it.
Well, yeah, I know, but now you're on the radio.
I was in Hawaii.
Yes.
And my husband was watching my friend and I play the Ouija board. And he decided to blindfold us.
Oh,
and
interesting.
We said, fine.
Yeah, okay.
You know, because we were working it. We were really working it.
I understand.
And we're blindfolded. and suddenly the little planchette, that's what you call the little triangle thing
Yes.
you put your fingers on,
Yes.
flew out. And I pulled the blindfold out, and I said, what'd you do, Bruce? Knocked the thing? He said, no, I held the crucifix over it. You remember that story now?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
And, yes. And, it's so serious.
It's very serious.
And people don't understand, and they think, oh, gee, let's have some fun. Let's play with a Ouija board. And I used to feel the same way.
I know, because I listen to your show, like I say every night, and I was really concerned about you. That's why I wrote you the note. I was really concerned. And,
with good reason.
Yes, because I knew. But now you know, so.
You're correct now, I know. Thank you.
Okay, Art.
Right, take care. There are a few things that I won't talk about. That really is one of them. And I really I'm giving you good advice here when I tell you don't play with Ouija boards. They're not toys. Oh, I didn't even know if they're sold anymore. I would imagine that that occasionally you could find one somewhere, but if I were you, I wouldn't even go to look. I wouldn't even think about it if I were you. You're listening to a collection of real. Now you can hear the voices. Real stories of the supernatural, ghost stories, stories of other dimensions, other realities, other times. I'm not really sure of what it is. I'm just sure that it is. We'll be right back.
Art Bell is taking calls on the wildcard line at 702-727-1295. That's 702-727-1295. First-time callers can reach Art Bell at 702-727-1222. 702-727-1222. Now, here again, Art Bell.
I can sure tell you how to send good spirits. Send flowers. You never mistake those for evil. You never mistake flowers for a bad message. It's always warmth, love, caring, feeling. And believe me, it works. East of the Rockies, you're on Ghost to Ghost AM.
Good morning, Semper Paratus.
How you doing? Where are you calling from?
Jacksonville, Florida.
All right. Good to have you.
Hey, it's great to be here. I've been enjoying your ghost stories, and it's one of the few times I've been able to tune you in here and everything.
What station are you managing to get us on?
WOKV.
WOKV.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And just like I said, I've been enjoying your ghost stories and everything, and then after hearing about that great icebreaker you were on, I was an ASM stationed in the Gulf of Mexico out of Houston.
Yes, sir.
And we've had I don't know whether to give you the Coast Guard's official version or our official version of some of the stuff we had seen back then.
You tell me what you know.
Okay, this was 1980, 1983, right there. We had several experiences of seeing what we termed as ghost ships. And it would never show up on the radar, but we would hear it from, small boats, 41-footers and stuff, of seeing different, like, glowing three-masted type schooner-type ships. I guess what you would maybe call an old pirate-type ship,
Sure.
Ship of maybe the Continental Navy type stuff or whatever.
Sure.
And then it would be gone. And generally this would happen, like, during the time of a harvest moon. And
there must be energy connected to things and events, and that's all I can figure. ships that come back, ships that linger, maybe ships that went down. Now I'm going to ask you the opposite. What did the Coast Guard say about this? I mean, if you guys would see it and file a report.
Well, I'll put it this way. I was sent for psychological evaluation 2 different times.
Uh-huh.
Let's see, the first time I was sent to NASA Bay there, and got to talk with some of the Air Force's people and some of the government's people, and they'd tell us, oh, well, you know, what you seen was an electrical phenomenon that was caused by, you know, different types of gravity and all, you know, just a bunch of junk. Second time was told it was some sort of fluorescent stuff caused by the ocean. But personally, I mean, believe me, I've jumped out of too many helicopters and hit that water in some cold stuff and some warm stuff, and that there was a cold that you would never forget. You know, it was just that real.
I hear you, sir, and I believe you.
Very unbelievable, but very believable also.
I appreciate your call. Thank you. Jacksonville, Florida. I do. I hear you and I believe you. And you should believe people like that, too, because these things do happen. It's part of our world, unless you turn it off. And I guess you can turn it off. And if you do, in all likelihood, these things will not occur to you or around you, or you will not be aware of them, and you may laugh at them. And if that's your way of handling it, I don't fault you for that. That's fine. West of the Rockies, you are on the air. Good morning. Where are you calling from, please?
Fairbanks, Alaska. Listen to KFAR.
Way up in Fairbanks, Alaska.
Yeah, we're having a heat wave up here.
Really?
Yeah.
Shouldn't it be getting cold up there now?
Well, we've only got maybe 2 inches, 3 inches of snow, about 36 degrees.
Real heat wave.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention, I don't think anybody's told you, but one of your favorite singers is going to be here this Friday.
Who?
Maria Moldauer.
Is going to be in Fairbanks?
Fairbanks, Alaska.
Oh, I hope everybody in Fairbanks says hi. Art said hi to Maria.
I wish I could go see her, but I work nights. I just don't work tonight.
Well, I'm sure that just about everybody who'll be going is listening, so everybody please tell her Art said hi.
Yeah. Quickly, I got a couple of real short things, and then I got a story.
All right.
I think God has sent a sign. It's that scream that you are playing that is a Sasquatch. In Australia, they call the Sasquatch a Yowie, and here in Alaska, they don't call it a Sasquatch, but they call it Hairy Man.
They call it what?
Hairy Man.
Hairy Man. Well, okay.
Hairy Man, and they've got a good article in the Alaska magazine, which I should put one in an envelope and send it to you.
I would very much enjoy that.
I think you would. Anyway, the story is about a truck, semi, that had been in a wreck and killed the driver, but there was no trailer attached to it. And the truck was repaired and put on lot, and it was sold. Well, every time it was sold, the person that bought it would bring it back and said they couldn't drive it. Something was weird with the truck. They kept bringing it back every time. Finally, one lady bought it. She wanted to get into the trucking, and she dealt with it. She just had to prove to her family and everyone around her that she could survive in the trucking industry.
Right.
And I may miss some of this because I read this in a little trucking magazine thing.
Right.
But I think it happened in Kentucky, and every time she went by, she'd get a cold feeling over her shoulder every time she went through this one area. It was like the truck was beckoning her to go through here or something.
Right.
And as it turned out, the guy that got killed in that truck had left his trailer somewhere, but it was never found. It was never traced. They could never find it. But he had parked it next to a cliff, and somehow the cliff gave way, and it buried the trailer. And every time she went by this area, she got a cold feeling in that truck. And finally, the rains or something washed that truck, and it showed it, and she somehow got hooked up to that truck, and she took that truck to its final destination, and ever since then, that cold feeling in that truck disappeared.
Wow.
Now, is that a story?
That's a story.
But I was sitting in a semi, I don't remember where, a truck stop, reading this, and I just got cold shivers all over me when I read this.
I can imagine.
And I couldn't wait to get through.
Well, I'm glad you made it through, sir. Thank you. And again, Yeah, that's weird. It's like, do you think it was the spirit of the person who originally had that truck? Or are machines and things energy in the sense that people have energy, or maybe in a different but similar sense? I don't know. So many questions, so few answers, huh? So many questions. On our first-time caller line, you're on the air.
Oh, Mr. Bell?
Hi.
Oh, I can't believe I got through to you.
You made it. Where are you?
I'm the unknown caller, but I'm west of the Rockies.
Okay.
All right. Hey, I'm listening to your ghost show, and I listened to you last year, and I thought it was great. That's why I'm staying up tonight listening to it.
Yes, sir?
I'm an atheist like Mark.
Yes.
And there's a lot of things I don't believe, and I listen to these ghost stories, and I throw them away. But there was something that happened to me, like when I was 20 years old, I had a roommate, and she was a single mother. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, you know, it was totally platonic and everything like that. And one night, in the middle of the night, she comes blasting into my room, crying and screaming that she saw her father, her dead father, standing over her sister's casket. And her sister was just, you know, like 18 years old.
Mm.
And her sister wasn't dead. And she said her father was telling her, your sister's going to be hurt. She's not going to die, but it's going to be close.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going, well, anyway, I calm her down and, you know, get her back into bed. And, anyway, the next day, we get a phone call from her mother saying that her sister was seriously injured in a car wreck. And go to the hospital and everything and see her, and she's like in ICU, you know. I mean,
Sure.
barely hanging on by a thread. And I never gave much thought to it, you know. Okay, her sister pulled through and stuff. But it's always bugged me that like the day before the accident happened, my roommate came in and screaming and crying that she saw her deceased father over her sister's casket, just right there in her bedroom.
So it bugs you.
Yeah.
Then you're not an atheist.
Well,
You're an agnostic.
No, an agnostic is just a gutless atheist, I've always thought. But I'm listening to your show again, and this is bringing up stuff that there's stuff that you don't know.
Yeah, that's the whole point. I mean, how can you listen to this? You know, these are serious stories. As you know, I treat it seriously, and so my callers do. And how can you listen to this and not become a gutless atheist?
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. I don't believe everyone that calls your show is a liar. They're not. These things are stuff that happens.
These things do happen.
Yeah.
I appreciate your call, sir. I thank you for the call. I mean, how can you listen? And then how can you say there is nothing? When we die, we just simply pass into blackness, into nothingness. That this life all goes for naught. That the energy that is our being beyond our physical bodies is not. Does not exist? I don't think so. No, I'm sorry, sir. You sound more like the gutless atheist you described. Or put more digestibly, an agnostic. Back to it we go, and on the wild card line, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning, Art. This is Judy, and I'm in Oregon.
Okay.
And I wanted to tell you that we live in a haunted house.
Oh, now you do?
Oh, yes, we do. We have for about 8 years.
Would you turn your radio off for us, please?
Yes. Matt, turn the radio off.
Yes, Matt. Extinguish it.
I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. All right, so in what form of manifestation do you get?
Well, when we bought it, it's actually an antique store, and we live upstairs. And when we bought it, I moved in before my husband did to get things straightened out. And the first day I was there, I went and was cleaning and everything, and it's on the second floor. and I went out the back door onto a porch area, and was shaking out some rugs, and all of a sudden the door slammed behind me. And it's a very large store, over about 8,000 square feet, so I'm up there all by myself. It's getting dusk, and I couldn't get back in.
Oh, boy.
And it faces the river, so I don't have too many neighbors. Finally, I did notice somebody next door about 20 minutes later walking around, and I'm yelling and screaming to him to come help me get out, back inside. So he did come around and jump the fence, and I had left a door open downstairs. Found his way upstairs, and lo and behold, he says, "How did you get out there?" And I says, "Well, I went out through the door." I have a deadbolt on that door, and he had to open the deadbolt to get me in. So, and that was the first of many, many experiences. And
well, I've always wanted to ask somebody this, and so I'm going to ask you.
Yes.
Why, pray tell, are you still there?
Well, they're not anything but pranksters. I'm not afraid of them.
So it's more of a sort of a pulling tricks on you kind of deal.
Yes, because another incident was downstairs. We have things like, the Jim Beam decanter bottles. We sell those as collectibles. And we went down, and it's on a cement floor. And one morning we went down, and there was 6 of them in a circle on the floor, about 4 feet from the shelf. So things like that happen all the time, and people are there when they happen, too.
I wonder in the paranormal world what a circle of booze bottles means.
I don't know, but they're young people, and I'm sure they don't have ID cards.
Thanks for the call.
Thank you, Art.
You take care. Bye-bye. And I'm sure they don't have ID. East of the Rockies, you're on the air on Ghost to Ghost AM. Hi.
Hi, Art. This is Angela in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Hello, Angela. How's Cheyenne?
Cold.
Cold. Yeah, I hear it's starting to get cold up there.
It is. There was a guy that called earlier, and he mentioned something about F.E. Warren.
Yes.
I wanted to say it is haunted. I've heard several stories from out there.
About the airbase?
Mm-hmm. It's here in Cheyenne, and it is haunted.
Well, any place where many deaths have occurred, particularly a combative kind of death, is a place where spirits linger.
Yeah. I just wanted to plug that real quick, and then I had a story that I wanted to tell you.
Okay, real quick.
I guess about 6 months ago, my little brother came over to my house, and he was telling me that a friend of his, she was a young lady, newlywed, had 2 really, really young children, had just found out she had cancer, and she was going to be passing away soon. The doctor didn't give her more than about 2 weeks.
All right, I'll tell you what. That's a good cliffhanger. We're not going to be able to finish, so I'm going to put you on hold.
Okay.
And let you hold. You won't hear anything. Don't let it worry you, and we'll get back to you after the break, all right?
Okay.
All right, stay right there. In Cheyenne, where it's beginning to get cold. Would that be cold as in universal, or would that be cold as in cold spots? We'll be right back.
I'm overheated.
lady. And you're back on the air again. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. So my brother was really devastated about this young lady when he found out that she was passing away. He was a friend.
All right, get into that telephone and talk up now.
Okay. Anyway, is that better?
That's a little better. You got to stay into it and talk. Project.
Okay. So my brother was friends with this lady, but I didn't know her. And my heart really went out to her, though, thinking that she was going to pass away and leave those two young children and her husband behind. And I kept thinking about her, and I couldn't get her out of my mind, like day and night for, I'd say, 4 or 5 days. And I was standing in my bathroom, and I felt something really strange, like almost a finger or something go across the top of my head. And I put my hand up there, and there was some kind of like a sticky goo on the top of my head.
You'd been slimed.
That my husband said too.
Well, he's got a good sense of humor.
I don't know if it had anything to do with her, but it was just really weird.
Well, it might have. But it's a good slime story, and I thank you for bringing it to us. We get one, at least one, every Halloween. There is something about ghosts or entities or whatever you want to call them that many times involves a kind of strange slime. So when they did Ghostbusters, they kind of did a play on that, but there's nothing to play with. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello, Art. How are you?
I'm okay.
I don't have an actual story, but actually I wanted to answer kind of a question you asked earlier about Ouija boards, like whether or not one could get them, and you might find this pretty scary, but apparently it's marketed by Parker Brothers. Actually, not like I think a couple days ago, I just saw a commercial about a bunch of kids playing Ouija boards.
Really?
Yeah. So it's
that's fine. I guess you can get them if you want to get them. Go ahead. My advice is, don't do it.
You don't have to tell me. Actually, I kind of think it's a stupid thing that they're doing. I'm an occultist myself, so I studied this field, and so I really think...
Look, it's just a board. If Parker Brothers wants to sell it, that's fine. It's like sitting down. It doesn't matter whether, in my opinion, whether it's a Ouija board or some other instrument that you're inviting, you're concentrating on, and you're consciously inviting an entity to you. You know not what you do. It's not like Monopoly. It's not like playing Monopoly where you're worried about getting a hotel to wipe the other guy out. You're sitting down to consciously invite an entity to direct you. It is not a good idea, whether it's a Ouija board or whether it's a Monopoly board or anything else. If the intent is to invite something in, you be damn sure you think hard about it before you invite something in you don't want to keep you company. First-time caller line, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, I want to speak to Art.
This is Bart Simpson. Turn your radio off, please.
Yes, I just did.
Mm-hmm. Okay, go right ahead.
Hi, Art.
Hi.
Yeah, I've just, so weird. I just got, it's not really a ghost story. It's about my brother who died. And, he died like maybe about 5 years ago. And, when he was younger, he had a car wreck, and, I guess what you'd call a near-death experience. He, was in the hospital for a long time.
Yes.
I'm kind of nervous. I'm sorry.
I can tell. That's all right.
Yeah. I can feel his presence now. When he was younger, he had a near-death experience, and I think he, and since he lived, I always thought it was special, but he always said, like, you know, he's just, it's not special. He thought that it's like everybody had the powers.
Well, why did you think he was special?
He was always interested in kung fu, and the things like martial arts and the power of the martial arts contribute to extra strength and.
Well, I don't know about that, but it does, thank you, contribute to a concentration, and the martial arts focus you, and whenever you focus, you can run into something you might not expect. Here's an interesting fact that just showed up. Art, I just got off work, and it took me a while to settle down and a couple of stiff drinks so I can tell this to you. I've been home for about an hour now, and this is just exactly what happened. Let me start out. I work at a hospital emergency room. Consider myself a level-headed guy. I did not believe in ghosts, that is. Tonight I was riding my bicycle home from work. In point of fact, I was listening to you, reminiscing that it had been about a year since I'd been riding home at night, alone. It's been almost 1 year to the hour since my old riding buddy was killed while riding alone on this same street last year. We generally rode together all the time. On this particular night, I'd called in ill, stayed home. My buddy Phil was run over by a drunk driver, not found for an hour or more, and died en route to the hospital. His bloodstains still mark the curb where his head struck, snapping his lower neck. Tonight, while riding home, I became aware of a feeling of having something like the sound of a car tire behind me, and yet there were no cars on the street. I kept hearing the sound, kept looking around. The sound got so loud, I could hear through the radio. In other words, I was listening to the radio. I finally took off the headphones, stopped, and looked down the street. I saw Phil standing on his back next to me. As fast as light, I got on my bike and sped home. Phil stayed with me until I reached the crossroads where he died. I swear, I saw him, big as life. I can't tell you if I was having a 60s flashback or not. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi. Hello there.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Art.
Yes.
I wanted to give you a little story about my experience with the Ouija board.
All right. Where are you?
This is Dan from Fairbanks.
Yes, Dan.
I was about 18, just graduated from high school, and this girl and I were playing with the Ouija board one night, and didn't think much of it, and I went home, and woke up the next morning, and I had a big antique Chinese mirror that sat on my dresser. It was, probably 3 foot by 4 foot, probably weighed about 60 or 70 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
When I woke up, this mirror was sitting right at the foot of my bed on the floor, face down. Well, I didn't think much of it, except that I had a bunch of model cars that I had collected and built, and some bottles of cologne and stuff sitting on top of my dresser, and nothing had been disturbed, which meant that for this mirror to get where it was, it would have had to have been lifted up off of the dresser, over everything that was on the dresser, moved about 2 feet from the dresser, turned at a 90-degree angle, and laid face down on the floor. Well, and that next night, we played with the Ouija board again. Went home, went to bed. Early in the morning, about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I hear this big, loud crash. I wake up, the mirror's in the same position on the floor, in the same exact spot, with the mirror broke into 100 or so little pieces, and everything on the dresser was laying all over the floor. Needless to say, that was the last time I ever touched a Ouija board.
Good for you. Thank you very much. Again, you invite things in when you do that, and you don't know what you're inviting in. It's like opening a door to a world where things exist, good and bad. Do you invite strangers into your home? Do you call on the street when somebody passes and invite them into your home, not knowing them? No. Then why would you want to do it with a Ouija? East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi.
Hi, Art. This is Robert from New Orleans.
Hello, Robert.
First, let me say I got your book yesterday.
Oh, you did?
I am very, very happy.
Is that, tell everybody, I've really not been soliciting comment yet, but is that one quality book or what?
Oh, yes, sir, it is. It's much better than I thought it would be.
Well, there you are. I'm glad to hear it. We'll do a day later this week and solicit comment. Anyway, it is Ghost to Ghost night.
Okay, Art. In New Orleans, I guess you know we bury people above ground here.
I've heard.
Right. Well, my grandmother's buried in one of these old cemeteries.
Yes, sir.
We go and we clean them out every so often, clean up around them and weed them. And me and my younger son will go walking and looking for the dates on each one of these tombs. As we're going through one day, we notice that a couple of them have been broken into. So we start looking into them, and we're seeing that the bodies have been disturbed, the caskets are open or broken or chipped out in corners.
Oh, boy.
As we go to one of the oldest ones, which is about a block down from my grandmother, it was an 8-year-old girl who died during the time that there was a bad scarlet fever going around in New Orleans, where thousands of people had died.
Yes, sir.
As I climb up to look in there, I notice there are 2 bodies in there, but these are recent bodies, like a day or 2.
You mean like the people who had been desecrating?
Yes, that's exactly who they were. There was 2 of them, 2 young men. One face down and one face up. The one face up had an expression on his face like you've never seen in your life. I ran and told the keepers of the ground, and they called the police, and the police came and everything. And 2 weeks later, I had called to ask, what had happened to the guys. And he said, as far as I can tell, both guys had died of heart attacks. And the one who I saw, I'm sure, died of fright. And they said the coffin where the little girl had been in was, of course, opened. It was a metal coffin at the time. And they said they guessed they were robbing it at the time, and something happened that scared them to death.
Oh, my God, what a story. That's a true story?
Oh, yes, it's very true. My son talks about it all the time, and every Halloween, it's the first thing we start telling the rest of the family about.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that with us. And no, I really do mean that. Thank you. But that is a scary story.
Yeah, it was. It still bothers me once in a while.
We can only imagine what they saw.
I know what they saw. The little girl took her revenge when they tried to break into her coffin.
Thank you for the call.
All righty. Take care, Art.
Take care. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Oh, hi, Art.
Hello
I'm
there.
Mary from Bakersfield.
Hi, Mary. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good, but that one did scare me.
Oh, boy.
I
boy.
can just imagine that. If
I'm
mine scared me, that one scared me more. Now,
All right.
this happened when I was about 18, 19. It was about 3:30 in the morning, I guess, and it was winter time.
Kind of like about now.
Well, no, it's not cold up here yet.
No, I meant the time. It's a little before 4.
Mm-hmm. And I was asleep in bed, and I woke up, and I was sleeping on my left side, and all of a sudden I woke up, and I turned over to my right side, and I was facing the door of the bedroom, and being cold, I had the habit of throwing the covers over my head. Well, I did that this time, and all of a sudden, about maybe 2-3 minutes passed, and I started getting scared, very, very frightened. And I tried to come out from under the covers, and I couldn't pull them off. And I mean, I clawed at them and just pulled, and I couldn't.
Oh, I wouldn't like that.
And all of a sudden...
Covers are supposed to protect you.
Well, these didn't.
Well.
Since then, I've never slept with the covers on my head ever since then. But all of a sudden, there was a scream in my ear, just a shrill scream, that my head just, you know how you feel when you've been screamed in your ear when you were small before, kids.
Sure.
And my head just, it just vibrated the way that screamed. And I tried to call my father. And I'd open my mouth and nothing would come out. And I'd just be open and gasping and trying to call. Yeah. And finally I managed to just say, Daddy. Just barely got it out.
Yes.
And when I said that, then the covers came off. I was still trying to take them off. And they came off all of a sudden. And, well, like I said, ever since then, I just do not sleep with the covers over my head, not a sheet.
My dear lady, I've heard a lot of I jumped onto the cover stories,
don't.
But I have never heard I went under the covers and then tried to get out and the covers wouldn't come off.
They would not. I know, they just would not come off. And like I said, I still do not sleep with my head under the covers anymore.
I can't say I blame you, but it's like, gee, there's nowhere to hide.
Well, hide under the bed. There's no place. Get underneath the bed or someplace.
Well, Look, I appreciate your story. It is unlike any I have ever heard, and I'm afraid it's going to have to be the topper for the for the day. I'm afraid.
Well, I'll be.
You know, the night just kind of flew by, as it were.
Well, I've been trying for quite a few years to get in. This is the first time I managed.
You've been trying for years?
Well, about 4 or 5 years.
I kind of wish you wouldn't say that. It discourages people.
Oh, it shouldn't, because I finally got through.
Well, see, there you are. All right. I'll
Goodbye.
tell you. All right. Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. There's a tradition here.
Oh.
With our last caller.
Oh.
You get to say, "Good night, America."
Oh, good. Good night, America.
Take care. Well, it has been fun and a little scary, but you tend to get what you ask for, and I wanted scary stories, and you all did not disappoint me. That last one from New Orleans kind of got to me, though. At any rate, again, I want to remind you to get a copy and archive of this program, stripped of the commercials, with only the frightening content remaining. You can call 1-800-917-4278. Let me give you that number one more time. 1-800-917-4278. Thank you all who joined us during the night. And all I guess I can say is... from the high desert. Good night, America.